Hey everyone, it's Adam here in the editing suite. Before we get started here, I just wanted to say that this episode had a whole lot of corrupted audio. I did my best to recover as much as I could because I thought that the content is very solid in it. And the ideas presented are good, and Terry and Megan are fantastic. So I didn't want to lose the whole episode, but unfortunately the audio quality is a little shitty. So sorry in advance for it. I hope you do enjoy the rest of the episode.
In real life, think about yourselves. We're going to think internally for a hot second.
I only ever think about myself.
I know.
So, okay.
That's very you.
We gotta hear it.
What skill in 5th edition are you proficient in? And what skill would you like to be proficient in?
Oh, I don't know. What am I proficient? Deception.
I would say that's very accurate for you.
Clearly deception. I've DM'd for too long to not be. I would like to be, I don't know. What's the thing that I'm not good at? And I'm not saying I'm great at everything. I'm not an intimidating person. I was like, what's the thing that I suck the most at? I'm not very intimidating.
I think you're quite intimidating.
Really?
Yeah, you're very
wow. Now I am.
Like, you're serious-faced, you're quite headstrong, you have like a booming voice,
When you try.
I feel like if you're serious about something, people will not fuck you around. They'll listen.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Survival. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm great out in the woods and stuff. I just feel like if not for antibiotics, I'd have been dead 10,000 times.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Right?
Fair enough.
Medicine is the thing I'm not good at.
I got a little infection from getting pricked by a cactus on the end of my thumb right now. I would be dead.
Do you in, yeah.
Death by cactus. Small prick. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fuck.
Fuck you.
What am I proficient in? I would like to say athletics, but to be honest, I'm not even that good at athletics.
I feel like in the comparison to the people in the room right now, athletics is where
I'm
you're
very
at.
good at. I'm very good at simple things. Run quickly in a straight line. Pick heavy thing up. Put it back down. Do not try and do things like I can't run, look behind me, zigzag, and catch a ball.
Can't do things in tandem. Yeah.
No, that is simple athletic things. Okay, maybe, but even that's...
Well, then that's athletics versus, acrobatics, because it's not like you're going to go and do tumbling flips around here.
100%, definitely not. What would I like to be better in? Honestly, perception. I am so bad at understanding how I am being perceived by the rest of the world. And, just like this, the other day, I was in Ceylon, and my girlfriend said to me, I had a sore bum from being at the gym. And it was right at the top of my hamstring. So I was just stood looking at the salad, and I was like, I just gotta massage this hamstring, gotta get it figured out. And she comes around the corner why are you picking your ass in the middle of fucking Ceylon foods right now? And I was like, I'm massaging my muscle. So it's just stuff like that.
I feel like that's an insight issue more than perception.
Yeah.
Maybe, I just mean how I'm being perceived. Also, but my own perception, I will not find the thing anywhere in the fridge. I'm that guy. I won't see it. I don't know where it is.
Yeah. No, that's natural for you folks.
For men in general.
For men in general. I feel like I am naturally good at intimidation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Megan. Sorry, Megan.
I know, yeah. What I wish I was better at is sleight of hand. I'm not an image of grace in any way, shape, or form. I wish that I was better at being graceful or sly.
One of the best artists I know, and I'm not even bullshitting you. When I see your art, it's because sometimes you see people's art and you're like, yeah, it's great, but you're like, it doesn't fucking look like a thing. But yours, the proportions, it's amazing. Oh. So that's sleight of hand.
Is it sleight of hand?
Well, that's what I would use for sleight of hand.
I thought it would be deception.
Just
fake it till you make it, my guy.
That's a forgery.
Forgery. Okay, fair enough.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome to another It's a Mimic episode where we continue our conversation on Dungeon Master tips in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I gotta do the low voice now.
You do, yeah.
Yep. I'm Adam, and with me today are Megan and Terry, and this episode is called Exploration, Skilling in the Name. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Little Rage Against the Machine reference.
Oh.
That's my favorite one, just for that, I think.
There you go. In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, this panel of Dungeon Masters is going to be looking into some more of the variant rules. This time it's all about the exploration pillar. Exploration pillar? Yeah, I guess so.
It's come up before.
Right. So the topics are going to range from encumbrance to falling to what to do with the players what to do when the players want to tie a knot with their precious rope. I guess everybody has a rope, right?
I've never known anybody to not start
have
a game
a rope.
with a rope.
Yeah.
The D&D group I'm playing with this time is the most unprepared D&D group ever, where they literally didn't have anything at all.
No ropes.
They went shopping like,
Nobody-
a backpack. I'm going to put flowers and food in it.
Fucking-
I want a
there's no
basket.
Yeah.
But we'll also be covering when should weight matter when your gear matters, or how to make skill checks and tools, and how to make tools. This is really stupid. We'll also be covering when should weight of your gear matter, and how you can make skill checks and tools more engaging, and what happens when you fall on someone else.
How often do you run into falling damage in your campaigns? Do you have any memorable examples of a character, enemy falling?
Yeah, let's roll on this one.
Let's roll it. Okay.
We got a 15.
7.
1.
Well, at least you're not talking to yourself, Terry, right?
Mm.
Like, okay. What, fall damage in my campaign? Well, like every session.
All the time.
Yeah, I am consistently cliffs or up on top of buildings, or if there's a parapet somewhere nearby, I am not DMing. That is the general rule. Because I need to throw, as Megan knows, players off of things regularly.
I was going to say the most times in a campaign that I've fallen and gotten damage from it has been in an Adam campaign.
Oh, it's good though.
Yeah.
It's satisfying.
I also like dropping people on other people as well, so that we will squish NPCs to death.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have a Loxodon in our current campaign, and we lost a Hobgoblin that way.
Rolling down the hill backwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Landed on a Hobgoblin NPC.
Just a giant,
Just made paste.
just an elephant bowling
yeah.
ball going down a hill.
love
Amazing.
I love it.
Well, I guess Megan, your answer is generally the same.
Yes, absolutely. I think the most memorable one, and I've talked about it before, is being picked up and dropped into on top of the building on fire.
Yes, that one was good. Actually, that happened to both of you.
Yes.
In the same session. I did that to Megan. You went up to save her.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah.
you ended up dropping because you were on fire, too.
And we almost died.
Man, I've repressed that memory. I don't remember.
Well, here you go. Here's
Did
your trauma.
We almost die, Megan?
We almost
Okay.
died.
Yeah,
We lived.
Yeah, there was nearly a TPK.
Yeah.
One of my more memorable experiences actually happened recently for the campaign I'm currently DMing. Adam, you'll be pleased to hear that I grappled somebody in the previous turn
Yes.
as a dragon.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Flew him all the way up and then dropped him all the way down, giving him all that fall damage. But it's a free action to drop something. So I then flew back down, grappled him with my action, and then buried him deep under the earth. So he fell, took the damage, and then I re-grabbed him and buried him deep into the earth. Came back out and said, "Fuck it, see you later. You know, you're stuck down there."
That's what you get for being level 2, bitches.
Yeah, that's what you
And
get.
fighting a dragon. I love it.
That's what you get.
Oh, man.
Well, okay, before we get any deeper into skills and falling and picking up and putting down, I guess, Mad Beats? Is that what? No, okay. Before we move any
Stop
deeper
it.
into this, we're going to cut to an ad break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on Dungeon Master tips in 5th edition. For all those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. If you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
Before we jump into what's available on Patreon this week, I just want to thank Andri from Iceland for supporting us on Patreon, as well as joining our Discord server immediately and jumping right in to mix it up with the hosts and myself and some of the other patrons. So thanks again, Andri. We look forward to talking to you more. This week on the It's a Mimic Patreon, we continue our conversation with the Campaign Builder, where now we've talked about what it means to be a dungeon master when the players have taken enemies hostage. What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? And you can check out this episode as well as the draft beta episode that Dan and I recorded back in 2020. So there's kind of a double whammy right now on the Patreon. So if you haven't subscribed already, you can head down into the show notes below and get the link to our Patreon, or you can find the information on our website. Anyway, let's get back to the show. So we're talking about skills. Skills are one of those things that we've mentioned in, I guess, almost like every episode. If
It
not,
comes up, I suppose.
yeah, but I mean, we've never really focused much on it since, I think, episode 7, when we talked about the exploration pillar. Or that was like episode 5, like way, way, way back in the day. And so, it's about time to circle back, especially because there are some variant rules about it. But there's a lot more going on with skills than I think the average person realizes. They see the list that's on the character sheet, and they think that's the be-all and end-all. And unless you're dealing with new players who don't understand it, you have to look it up to explain it to them. It's not really fresh in your mind most of the time. So let's go through what each one of the skills, I mean, we're not going to itemize every single one of them, but let's talk about what's out there, what should be a part of the skill list, and kind of what some of the variant rules are. So the best way to do this is to look at it by the ability checks, and of course every skill is tied to an ability score. So we're going to start with strength. Strength, of course, is just, it says in the player's handbook, it's about your bodily power, your athletic training, and your raw physical force. This isn't about your physical training like tumbling and
or your martial skills,
martial
or
arts.
like your
but when
Megan, don't say that to me. What's that? I'm lower than you right now.
intimidation.
So they have wrapped all of the previous edition's strength-based skills into one. It's just called athletics. It used to be jump, climb, and swim.
Yeah.
And that's it. In previous editions, jump had a whole bunch of special funky rules, and now we do have special rules about when jump just automatically succeeds in 5th edition, because there are some jumping rules based on what your strength is. Tells you how far you can jump. However, if you need to go beyond that, you can roll an athletics check. And that's it. There's not a whole lot going on for strength, which is odd because I always wanted there to be more like maneuvers and stuff that you can do, but it's just athletics versus athletics or acrobatics over and over and over again, instead of you being able to be proficient in shoving someone instead of tripping them, or swimming instead of climbing, or just because you're good at one doesn't necessarily mean that you are good at another one. I think about people that are rock climbing. I couldn't do that, but I used to be able to swim when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, now I just kind of sink to the bottom and blow bubbles till the bubbles stop. But
I can't swim very fast.
No.
What about if you did it in a straight line?
Oh, like a rocket. Like a torpedo.
For dexterity, it's going to focus on your agility, reflexes, and balance. This, of course, they give us only 3 in 5th edition: acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. I do like that stealth is dexterity-based, but it's weird that it has to be. I can think of a lot of ways to be stealthy. It isn't just creeping along, tiptoeing down a hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I do miss from previous editions when they also gave us escape artist.
That's an interesting one.
That one was from 3.5, and I missed that one. So every time that you're handcuffed or you're bound or you're in a cage or whatnot, just being able to wriggle your way free.
Yeah.
And that was something that a lot of people could do. Rogues were notorious for that. There's no point in tying their hands up. They're going to break free. It's fine.
Yeah.
For intelligence, it's a focus on mental acuity, accuracy of recall, and ability to reason. Unfortunately, the skills don't necessarily cover those altogether. They have Arcana, History, Nature, and Religion, which used to be just called Knowledge, and these were all subsections of a knowledge check in previous editions. And they also have now lumped in Investigation. And Investigation is the one that often gets mixed up with Perception. Perception is your ability to see the thing. Investigation is your ability to then understand the thing. How does this all fit together? For example, Perception will let you find the book on the shelf. Investigation will let you find the information in the book.
Yeah.
Right. Perception lets you see the painting. Investigation lets you see the details of the paint. So in previous editions, intelligence used to be way more useful. And it feels like the nerf stat for a lot of people these days, because when do you use Arcana, History, Nature, Religion? Occasionally when you're looking for a plot point.
You're right.
But in the past, there was a lot more that you could do with it. You were able to appraise things. There was that was one of the skills, appraise. So you'd be able to pick up that piece of art or that clay pot, or even just that magic item, take a look at it and figure out how much is this going to be worth. Is this a masterwork piece? How intricate has it been made? Is this complicated? Even looking at complex machinery and whatnot, you go into a gnome's workshop, be able to pick it up and be like, oh shit, there's a lot going on to this thing.
I can't believe you're telling me that was a skill from previous editions, because that's going to come up for me as a suggestion for a skill later on.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Shit.
It was also used for decipher script, which was really useful because there used to be a lot more emphasis put on what languages that you may or may not know, and whether or not, like, just because you can speak it doesn't mean you can write it. Now, everybody just knows pretty much everything, and everyone speaks Draconic and Elvish, don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's every player's
So
choice.
annoying.
Yeah. So, we'd also get things like Streetwise, which is just your intelligence being out in the world. If you were walking down a back alley and there were 3 guys, you know, at the end of the alley, you would use an intelligence check to figure out, is this a bad idea? Should I turn around?
Was that in a previous edition?
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, because I feel like I remember that one.
It should
That's
have
4th
been.
edition.
I have met so many like academically smart people in my life that just have no idea that they're about to get mugged or something.
Yeah.
Like, just, yeah.
And then they had more knowledges too. So there was dungeoneering, which was understanding how dungeons work. When you are underground, you have a general idea of what direction you're headed, as well as it's getting colder, we must be going deeper, or normally roots don't grow that way from the ceiling, so we must be close to the surface. Like, just kind of shit like that.
Or like when you get so far underground, you don't know if you're upside down or anymore or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dungeoneering would let you have kind of a navigation as well as an understanding of whether or not, like, that's a false door, or there's probably going to be a pit trap here. Who puts a rug in a dungeon?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that kind of shit.
Love that.
You just listed like 5 things that I would just never figure out myself.
Perception.
Exactly.
Then there was also engineering, which was one of the unsung heroes. Dwarves tend to get this one a lot. It's when you walk into it, so like an underground, a man-made place. So like an underground dungeon or a tower or old ruins, and you'd be able to sit there and be like, I kind of know when this was created, as well as what culture created it, as well as what, you know, like, which one of these is a load-bearing beam. Because a lot of the times in previous editions, knock the pillar out was the only way to kill the monster because the roof collapses. You're never going to kill it yourself.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of understanding your environment a lot more, and not having these 2 skills in intelligence really hurts the exploration pillar. There's also geography. So being able to understand which way the river flows is going to tell you how close to, the coastline that you might be. Understanding as well things like when you have passed from one terrain type to another, now you're in a different kingdom because you read a map before. Like, there was a lot of shit. Geography was often tied into, like, cartography and shit as well.
Yeah.
There was history, which is exactly what it sounds like. Now, history kind of is an all-encompassing political as well as historical, as well as, like, as long as it's not magic or religion, if you need to know it, history is the check.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There used to be one called local, which was how well do you know local information? Like, I know the history of Vancouver super well. If I go to Edmonton, I don't instinctively know which way to go, where to head to go to, like, their night district, right? Or where are the strip malls, or just, like, being able to, no, not the strip clubs.
Yeah.
Good face,
Jesus,
though.
Terry.
Good response. Good
I
response.
thought we were going back to Crystal and Topaz again for a second.
We know they miss you, okay? It's fine.
So it was not just that, but like, who are the local celebrities? Do you guys remember the guy that would play spoons downtown? He would sit in the corner at Carnival and
Yeah.
No, but a couple
Standing in
people-
line at the clubs all the
Yeah,
time.
A couple
Yeah.
of people have talked about this person,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yep, there was also a guy. His name was Jerry. He used to be at the corner of Cassiar and Hastings, and he was there every single day for years, begging for money. He had cancer and he died about 4 years ago. And he had a huge spread in the local paper.
Yeah.
But he was just I don't know if he was homeless, but he was definitely below the poverty line. And all he did was smile away. He was the friendliest guy in the world. He would sit in the median and get change from people that were, like, waiting to turn left.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's local knowledge that you would be able to get. Who do I have to talk to do this?
Yeah.
Where's the local thieves guild? Where's the local watering hole? Where's the local anything? That used to be a skill. Now it's just history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nature's always been around. There used to be nobility. I mean, you play L5R, right?
Yep.
Legend of Five Rings, where nobility is a thing.
It is.
That there's, like, clout and status that you have to worry about. There used to be roles for that in D&D.
Yeah.
There's not anymore. You just a performance check? Is that what that is now? What is, like, is it?
Like determining someone's like stature?
Yeah, is it persuasion to show somebody how snazzy you are? Just a straight charisma check?
Or I'm like I think it would be charisma if you were trying to display the fact that you are of a certain stature. But then I also feel like I don't know what the role would be if you were trying to figure out someone was of a certain stature.
I think it depends whether or not you're faking it or whether that is naturally who you are. I mean, if you take like an upper class or just use like a royal, for example, they don't have to put on a show. They're just going to be like that.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually know what all the spoons and forks do. Like, that's a thing that I know. Like, just the etiquette of setting a table and shit. And which ones to use for which course. I don't know why I know that, but I know that. That would be a nobility check. Like, an intelligence check to be able to know that shit, because the average person just doesn't. Because I never set 16 fucking utensils out for dinner.
You don't?
Right? So, no.
Okay.
Well, I mean, except the chopsticks. But does that count? No? Okay.
You need 16 chopsticks for one meal?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes when I order sushi, they think that I need 16 chopsticks. So, you know what?
They're the worst.
They bring me a fork and I get offended.
Everybody's had it where you order food, but they presume from the amount of food that there must be 4 people eating.
So they give you 4 chopsticks, and you're like, this is just for me.
I'm just depressed.
Just having a bad day.
God.
They also have always had the skill, the knowledge religion in previous editions, but they also had the planes. So this is what you would roll to know information about things like beholders or mind flayers or shit like that. If it's from the far realms, or you need to know something about the elemental plane of water. If you are a specific kind of ranger, you would know shit about the planes. And this would be far more important in like a Spelljammer campaign or a Planescape campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily get that anymore. Then there's not a whole lot of plane hopping written into the core material, like the published shit they give you. By the way, you're in Barovia.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? You're in the Feywild, right? And and you're not supposed to know. It's supposed to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be you hopping from plane to plane and being kind of a master of this and learning shit as you go. We just don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
For wisdom, that is your attunement to the world around you, your perceptiveness, and your intuition. So this is where you get your animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. There used to also be one called profession. So if you had a job where you make money during downtime, it's not just crafting. It would be like, your bard wants to go juggle outside. They would put ranks or points, skill points essentially, into profession, how good they are at their job. And it was wisdom based. And that would determine how much money they could make in their downtime.
Great. I love that we pretty much got rid of the importance of making money. So I feel like that's why they stripped that right out.
Oh, yeah. Like the economy in 5th edition is just
non-existent.
Yeah, who gives
I
a
hate it.
shit?
I blame the bag of holding and the fact that Encumbrance doesn't seem to count for gold.
Yeah.
You carry 10,000 gold pieces and you're fine. Money's worthless now.
Light as a feather.
Yeah.
They also used to have a dungeoneering skill in here in 4th edition. They swapped the knowledge skill over to wisdom. So there's also charisma, which is the interactions with others, your own confidence and eloquence, and also your strength of personality. This used to also cover the idea of willpower, but that's not a thing anymore because every player sitting across the table from me has too much fucking willpower as it is, and they wield it at every fucking opportunity. Just players, man.
I feel like willpower should be like something they should bring back.
It used to be the will save.
Yeah.
I would really like to be like the force of will, but that's why it's a spellcasting ability as well for bards and stuff.
Yeah, but I understand it takes away like someone's want to how to act with their character, and it's hard to determine via a roll what a good or bad reaction to something is going to be, especially that's the whole point of a role-playing game, right?
Yeah.
So I understand why they got rid of it, but I feel like it's something that is funny every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have the willpower not to kick that person in the face right now? Roll for it.
No, I don't.
The DC increases on that one every day.
Every day.
So the skills that they give us are deception, intimidation, performance, and persuasion. They also used to have gather information, which was you going out into the world and learning shit just by talking to people.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get information about the prince. We have a meeting with the prince tomorrow at dawn. What do we know about him? Nothing. Go out to the marketplace and learn some shit.
Let me go to a library and let me figure that out for you.
Well, no, that would be nobility checks or history checks.
Fair. Yeah.
But going to find out what everybody at the pub thinks, It's like, so that prince, huh? And everybody just starts breaking shit and fuck the prince. Like, that's gather information.
Like,
right?
well, there we go.
Yeah. So now they just kind of leave that up to role playing.
Mm-hmm.
Constitution is the redheaded stepchild of the fucking skills. It used to be, I mean, it's about health, stamina, and vitality. That's what the ability check is for.
Yeah.
Also concentration. It's the thing we don't talk about. Is it a save? Is it a skill? I'm pretty sure it's an ability check, but it's not a save. Does anybody know off the top of their head? It's a concentration check, not a concentration save.
Like if you get attacked when you're concentrating on a spell,
Yeah.
it's a check.
Yeah, you used to be able to be like proficient in it. Now that's not a thing, and it only really seems to apply to spellcasters instead of the the ranger on the ship that's trying to hold all of the netting on at the same time, and then he gets like buffered around by a large wave. Is he able to concentrate on the thing? The bard in a battle of wits with somebody else, not necessarily casting spells, might need to concentrate. Right? And that's not a thing that we can just choose to be proficient in anymore.
Yeah, I feel like there's been some instances in my life where like I've had like a barbarian hanging from a rock or the edge of a cliff and using a strength check to make sure he's still there, but then gets attacked. And it's like, how are you still able to maintain concentration on holding onto the side of a cliff after you've been stabbed?
Fair.
This would also lead us to the idea of endurance, which was one of these skills from 4th edition as well.
Yeah.
And I missed that. That should really be a fucking thing. I run into that a lot, especially when people go into really, really hot places. Like you're going into the bed of the volcano, right? Being able to endure that heat, or being able to endure the ice wind dales, frigid coldness.
Yeah.
Or being able to just like sprint for 15 miles, right? I keep thinking about Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli just running for days. Jesus, no, thank you.
Effortless.
No.
Absolutely effortless.
Anyway, Pathfinder actually had a couple of skills as well that the 1st edition anyway took from 3.5. It was Disable Device, which was disarming traps.
Yeah.
Fly, which was how dexterous you were able to be when you were flying, either like of your own volition. This is not riding a dragon. This is when you cast fly. Or if you have wings, how well can you fly? When you get hit by things, you have to dodge and duck things. There was a lot more 3-dimensional thinking in previous editions and in Pathfinder as well. 5th ed is pretty 2-dimensional plane. There's Spellcraft, which is helpful for your counterspell. Spellcraft was you being able to identify what spells were being cast.
Mm-hmm.
So you see an enemy wizard waving his hands in a certain way and starts to chant indoors. You're like, oh, fuck, it's a fireball, everybody get down! Right? Like, or being able to identify what level the spell is to counterspell appropriately. They also had Use Magic Device, which meant that you had to make a roll, and anybody could do it. This is a charisma check, to be able to use things like wands and scrolls and any sort of magic item that an artificer could put together as well. This used to be a skill. Now you're just rolling Arcana checks.
Yeah.
Pathfinder 2 busted it all down into 4 categories, all of their skills, and I find this is really useful to think about. We're going to talk about variants and stuff in a minute here. That's why I'm talking about all these other options. It is important to think about the fact that the skills are meant to be a facsimile of what you can do in real life based on these 6 very simple fucking ability checks. And that's it. Here's the score, and they have to represent literally everything a human being can do. Or an elf, or an Aarakocra, or like whatever, right? So, but they don't do a good job with just a very limited skill list. And there's a big argument right now with 1D&D coming. Do we get more skills or fewer? Do we make it easier, or should we get more granular? So the answer is you can always actually do whatever the fuck you want with skills. The character sheet is a guideline. That's kind of the way that they lay it out for players to have a direction to think about. But for DMs, you should be thinking about other things as well, like all of the different acrobatics ideas in Pathfinder 2nd edition. You have balance and tumble through. Tumble through is when you have to pass through an area that is considered, difficult terrain. There's another person in the way, or it's a tight squeeze, or not a tight squeeze, sorry, it's a different one. But the idea that you've got to like get underneath a door that's like slowly closing and shit like that, that's a skill, and anyone can do that untrained. Or you can actually put their version of proficiency. You get training in it to either do a maneuver in flight or to squeeze it as well. Like you guys ever see those really uncomfortable like spelunking videos of the people that were like squeezing?
I've gone
descent?
spelunking before and I
I've done
hate
it as
it.
well.
Yeah.
It's a hard fucking no.
I don't like it.
I don't need to be surrounded by a planet.
No.
I watched The Descent and I was thoroughly uncomfortable for the first half an hour.
What a great movie, though.
And then bored for the rest of it.
Yeah.
I gotta try it again.
I loved it.
I was so scared of the earth and not the monsters.
Oh, see, I just loved all of it. What was about it?
I don't like being underground. That doesn't work for me.
Maybe I should give it a second shot.
Give it another go.
All right. Yeah, okay. And then they have everything under the idea of Arcana, which is you can recall knowledge, which untrained, or you can borrow an uncanny spell. If somebody else casts a spell, you can do it too. You've seen it recently. You can mimic it. You can
fake it till you make it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can decipher writing. You can identify magic, or you can learn a spell. These are all things you can get trained in doing as a spellcaster.
Yeah.
Then athletics covers almost all of this is untrained. Just anybody can do this. Climb, force open, which I guess is chests as well as doors.
Yeah.
Grapple, Megan's favorite.
Love it.
High jump and long jump are two separate things in Pathfinder.
Of course.
Shove, swim, and trip. There is one that you have to be trained at doing, and that's disarming people. But that's a skill that you can get to just be good at, and you make a roll to disarm someone.
Huh.
And then the last one is crafting. Whether or not you can recall knowledge, you can repair things. Those are both untrained, so you can just repair shit. What do you do to repair a wagon wheel now that breaks on the wagon in the middle of nowhere?
Mending.
If you don't have mending, what do? You sit there and listen to Dan talk about the 7 different tool proficiencies he has.
Yes.
And say, fine, it takes you roll a d10, that many minutes. Jesus, moving on. Right? But there's no hard and fast rule for that anymore. Unless I think there might be some artificer shit that points in that direction. Craft, earn income, and identify alchemy were all skills that you can learn in
It just
second
sounds
edition.
so specific, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Call of Cthulhu, where you have a list of like 30 different skills and you can do all of them, but you just really suck at some of them.
Yeah.
Well, Call of Cthulhu, you suck at most of them.
Pretty much everything. Well, because they're humans, so yes, you absolutely suck at everything.
Call of Cthulhu is like, what are you least shit at?
What are you the least shitty at?
Do you guys think that there are enough skills? Would you want to see more or less?
Sorry, Megan, you took your inhale before me. You go first.
I don't know. I think that when you get too granular, it's too hard to follow, and then I don't find it enjoyable in any way, shape, or form. I like being able to have the freedom as a DM to say, use this skill. This is kind of like the area that it fits into, and then go from there. There are a couple that I wish would reprise in some way, shape, or form, but like not to the detail that has been previous editions.
So you and Dan are both going to say some way, shape, or form now.
I always say that.
Okay.
My issue right now is always saying X, Y, Z. I learned I say that so many fucking times.
You do.
Yeah, sorry people.
I was told off the other day for always saying a hot minute.
For a hot minute.
I didn't even realize that I did it. But there you go.
They told me at work today that I say fuck around under my breath too much when I'm pissed.
You do say
That
fuck.
is such a Canadian thing.
Fuck around and find out.
That's one of my favorite phrases. I love that and step up then. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, phrases.
I think 5th edition is, for the most part, so well balanced, and particularly with the skills, I really enjoy it. And to Megan's point here, and Dan's said it previously as well,
XYZ, yeah.
XYZ, some way, shape, or form.
Fuck around and find out. Better pack a lunch.
That when you're too specific in something, then it causes ambiguity in other areas. And I think so too. I would agree with it. So I think right now we have the perfect amount of balance, and I think the fact that in the future editions with 1D&D, the whole point is to bring more people to this game. I think if you make it more complicated again, you're going to make that harder.
You're gonna make people not want to play it anymore. Like, the only reason why I got so far into D&D at this point is that when 5th edition came out, it was so easy to pick up.
But it's still a lot to pick up for the first time. When I put a group together a couple of months ago, and it was mostly new people, and I had to give people the player's handbook, and they were like, it's 290 something pages. And I was like, you don't need to know it all, but probably 100 of those pages you probably should know.
Yeah.
When Mieke and I started dating way back when she'd never heard of the D&D before. And she said she was never going to play it. And then about 3 years ago, I got her to try it. We play one-on-one, especially through like Zoom and
Just gotta
whatnot.
get and do it once.
Yeah.
That's it.
However, she's still learning shit all the time. She was here this summer and sat in on a couple of D&D sessions with us. And Dave looked over at her character sheet and saw that she had written down under her items, hemp and rope instead of hempen rope.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and he has not let her forget that at all. Like, about every week or so, he sends a message about hemp to Mieke. And, like, he is not letting it go. But, like, that's just the thing. If you're not... That is one of those things that you can play for 3 years and still not fucking know.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it.
One of the reasons that I like to look at what previous editions has offered is not because I want to add these things into the game, but so that I can put it on the inside of my DM screen and say, okay, when my player is trying to do this really fucky weird thing, and it doesn't fit one of the skills, does it fit one of these alternative skills that I see in another game?
Yeah.
Can I figure out what spell it was that he was casting? Oh shit, which modifier do I use for that to let him do that?
Yeah.
So being able to have that cheat sheet is really useful. So I'm going to post this and put the link up in the Reddit so that people can download kind of my list of alternative shit that I've compiled from other editions as well.
Yeah.
Now there's some variant rules, and one of them, the first one is in the DMG, and it's automatic successes. This is on page 239, and it says essentially that if your barbarian should win the arm wrestling contest with the wizard, but the wizard just rolls better, it doesn't feel good for the barbarian. Sometimes you should just let the barbarian win as an automatic success. You don't need a skill check for it. However, having a proficiency with the skill or tool can also grant automatic success. If a character's proficiency bonus applies to his or her ability check, the character automatically succeeds if the DC is 10 or less. If your DC is 10 or less in the first place, I don't even bother. Maybe an 8. 8 or less, I don't bother rolling.
Yeah, true.
Right? I mean, outside of tier 1. Tier 1, I'll make you roll. But
Yeah.
If the character is 11th level or higher, the check automatically succeeds if the DC is 15 or less. Now, I mean, Charlie already has a plus 13.
13. Yeah.
Into his initiative.
Yep.
And a plus 17 into stealth, I think.
Yeah.
And we're level 4. Like, he min-maxed the shit out of it. I don't know how that math breaks down. I probably have to look a little closer. But
now that you say that out loud, we're like,
Yeah.
But I've never even heard of this.
As the monk, I don't even have that high of a initiative.
But I do know that Dan was rocking rolls of like 30 plus.
Yeah.
When he was in tier 4. It's not necessarily impossible to think that maybe, that we can just hand wave this shit and move forward.
Yeah.
But again, only with the proficiency in it. Like, I'm not going to let the wizard do it on a stealth check of DC 14.
Yeah.
Wizard rogue, you already did it. That feels good. The problem with that, and it says that right in the Dungeon Master's Guide, is smart players and experienced players will then just start to tailor their game to only using those rolls that they're already fucking good at. Yeah. So they know they don't have to roll because their skills are already higher than 15 or 10 or whatever, right? So
yeah.
So how do you guys feel about that?
Who's going first? Me on this one?
Let's roll.
We can roll, as is tradition. Very good. I rolled a 13.
6.
I got an 8. 13-1.
I was going to re-roll it because I felt like it didn't count. It just kind of toppled. But I'll take the 13. What do I feel about automatic successes? Well, I'll put it this way, okay? Michael Jordan missed more than 9,000 shots in his career. Should Michael Jordan have to roll to get a ball through a hoop?
I mean, yeah, that's literally what athletics is, right?
But he's proficient.
Him, it should be, by this kind of logic, he would be at the point where you consider it to be an auto success. But he had missed 9,000 times in his career. So because there is a chance that you can still fail, I think you should roll it. If it's, 10 or under, if you're like tier 3 and above, okay, fine, fuck that. But anything 15 or over, or 15, I would say. I think you should definitely still be rolling. Even if the wizard is arm wrestling the barbarian, I think you should still roll. Because maybe the barbarian is not smart enough to realize that arm wrestling is actually better when you pull with your bicep more than you try and push with your palm. And the wizard might figure that out.
I learned something today.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Terry, what else is better to pull versus push?
Simple thing. What else is better to pull than push?
Depends on your kink.
We don't kink shame here, right? Okay. Honestly, when it comes to automatic successes, I look at it this way. You can have a maximum of a +5 modifier into any one of the skills, plus your proficiency can be +6 at high level, which means that you can roll a 1 and get a minimum of 12. Why are you rolling? If it's DC 10.
Yeah.
Fair point.
But I think that by the time that we get to that point, the DM should kind of have an idea in his head about, what's happening as far as each player's like proficiencies. What are they naturally good at? What they have tools to do, and whether or not it's even worth bothering to do it. Like, even at high level, I was just saying, hey, you guys are stealthy. You move forward. Paladin and Wizard roll stealth.
Yeah.
Right.
For your bullshit armor.
Yeah.
Roll it.
What I meant to add, that I'm going to add before we move on, is if you're not going to do an auto success, I think if somebody is highly proficient in something, you could do a reduced amount of failure. So, for example, if a rogue does fail to pick the lock, he's not necessarily going to fuck that lock up and damage it. But if somebody else was to fail that and they have no proficiency in that, then they would maybe damage it or fuck it up more. So I'm more in the favor of a reduced amount of failure.
Yeah.
What do you think, Megan?
I think, as I think with most things, it's situational. It's one of those, like, if you're a higher level, and, like, there's been so many times, even though we're lower level, where Charlie will look at you like, why am I rolling for stealth right now? Like, already, we get those looks at the table of, like, why am I bothering to roll?
Yeah.
And I like Terry's idea of the fact that it does add a little bit of suspense to it of how shitty you will fail. Like, if the barbarian fails the arm wrestle with the wizard, does his arm break? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff could be tied into it. So I do agree that rolling is necessary, but I think that you can tailor it with these kinds of variant rules. But I wouldn't play a game where it was an automatic success, like, guaranteed. I wouldn't say at the beginning of my game, be like, we're playing with auto success. I wouldn't do that. It would just be something that I would have in my back pocket for those situations I want to move through quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you wouldn't even mention that there's something that you might roll. You just kind of do it as part of the...
Yeah, you just say it's a natural thing. You just say, yeah, you're absolutely naturally stealthy if you're going in on your own and the paladin's not following you. Absolutely, you can sneak through.
Yeah.
Like,
One of the interesting things that I used to do is add a level of in-game humiliation to it.
Yeah.
I did this to Dan all the fucking time because
Fair.
he was a min-maxing rogue. So if he was supposed to be stealthy and he was the least stealthy person there in tier 3, everybody else just rolled really high, and he rolled a 1, still came in at a 16, but came in lowest, then everyone else gets an opportunity to mock him. And even the narration of, like, everybody else tiptoes forward. Dan, your character, trips on his own coattails and flops down silently on his belly and hopes that nobody else can see.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Acts
that,
like it was deliberate.
yeah, like, he still passes. It's not necessarily a failure, because, I mean, he can't fail. But you've done fucked up, right? And so everybody else gets the opportunity to laugh at him in that moment. Now, you have to have the right table for that, with the right players. Some players can get real butthurt when that shit happens.
Yeah.
If everyone around the table starts laughing at you, if you built your ranger to train an animal, the animal bites your hand, and everybody laughs at you, then what the fuck have you been doing for the last 8 fucking sessions? Of why the goddamn am I even fucking here? And, like, I have watched people rage out like that.
Yeah, but then if you do that, you forfeited your right to laugh at anybody else.
I mean, that's fair. There's another variant rule that I quite like called more difficult identification. Did you know that you can identify any magic item with a short rest? You don't need to be proficient with it, with any sort of, like, identifying spell or anything else.
You need to be a caster, though, to do that?
Nope. You can just hold it and, quote-unquote, attune to it, or without attuning. Like, the idea is the same thing. You're holding it in your hand during a short rest, you do nothing else, and you will just know everything about it by the end of the short rest.
No, I don't like that.
Yep, I hate it. You guys both look confused, because I don't fucking play that way.
No,
But
I've never even heard of it, and I don't like it.
My DM has never offered me the opportunity to
Yeah.
do this.
I spit it out. Stupid. Don't like it.
It does say that if you prefer magic items to have a greater mystique, consider removing the ability to identify the properties of a magic item during a short rest, and require the identify spell, experimentation, or both to reveal what a magic item does.
Do you know what? I've never thought about using experimentation or offering that as an option to the players.
Well, we don't kink shame here, so, like, you experiment how you need to, right?
Just
in your
just
own
offer
time.
that you can trigger it if you want.
You can hold that wand as long as you'd like, but if you're going to experiment, it might go off in your hand.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. Keep going.
We don't do that anymore on this show, Megan.
That's not where that sentence was going.
That's
So
the name of my sex. Let's not do that on this show anymore, Megan.
With my name in there specifically.
I talked a lot about skills with a lot of different options and whatnot. Is there a specific skill that you guys think it's overlooked?
Performance.
In performance?
Performance is not used enough.
It's very specific to...
I don't think so.
In games that I've played in, it's been played very specific to certain things. I agree. I don't think it's utilized nearly enough.
I think you can use it at times. Like, people will often lean into deception, but I think if you're doing anything that could be considered a performance, if you're impersonating somebody else, I think that should be performance, not deception.
See, and I have done that in the past, especially when you're like trying to walk through the crowd without being noticed. That's performance, not deception.
Yeah.
Right? I used to do what Dan does now, which is air balancing, right? So the idea is you walk in a Visi vest with the clipboard in one hand and a ladder in the other, and you can just walk into anywhere and no one will bother you. No one will ask questions. That is so fucking true.
It's good heist knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like that's like a meme now that, as long as you're carrying a ladder, you can get in anywhere. Like, people have gotten into movie theaters and watched movies for free because it went in with a ladder.
I absolutely believe it.
Yeah, but like, you just have to look official enough, and I feel like that's performance. That's not deception.
Yeah.
My sister, she worked for a company she used to work for. She was did ethical hacking. You know, they'd hire her to steal credit card information and stuff, and they'd be like, "How did you do it?" But another part of what that company did was physical entry. They'd be like, the CEO would be like, "Our server room is on this floor right here. If you can get to it and take a picture of it, then I know we have a problem." And she said, once you get beyond the front gate, if you can get in anywhere, if you can just get into the building, people will have assumed that you've already been checked because it's not their job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just little things like that. If somebody does ask you for their ID, tell them where it is and then ask them to go and get it for you, and then they'll be like, no. They walk. It's just little things like that, to your point.
Yeah.
I play a lot of Hitman. I know what that's like.
Never played it. Is it good?
It's great.
It's pretty fun. You are so intimidating. All of the I play a lot of Hitman, but then you just sit there in your fucking evil throne
it's very
chair.
difficult for us to continue the conversation because I don't. That's it. How do I follow up with that? I play a lot of Hitman. It's great.
Megan doesn't make commentary; she decrees.
Yeah.
And that's what it.
And then stares
I make demands and I do decrees.
And then stares as though whatever your answer back better be correct. So you go, okay.
That's how deceivingly good at intimidation.
Is it good? Yes, it's great.
Okay.
I think a skill that gets overlooked way too much is survival.
Yeah.
There needs to be more survival checks to know whether... I love weather in games. I think weather is so much fun, and I usually ramp it up in tier 2. I don't focus too much in tier 1 because everybody's squishy.
Yeah.
But whether or not you get a long rest, it depends on how windy or rainy or dark, and cold. And there are some times where you just cannot get a rest in, where exhaustion becomes... Find shelter becomes the name of the game, and know your tent doesn't cut it, right?
Writing this in, Adam, right now, because I forgot about it. You continue as I write this in.
Survival should be not only surviving when the weather hits, but knowing that it's coming, being able to see the signs of it. Seeing the flock of birds in the distance. Perception sees it. Survival knows, a predator is over there, or a large animal just moved through where they were nesting.
Or we're being followed, or
right, exactly, right? And so survival should be used so much more for exploration, especially in overworld travel.
Yeah.
That's the one that I really want to rely on. You could say nature, and I would lump geography knowledge and shit into nature, but the way that you interact with the natural world should be used way more. Especially if you're going to play Tomb of Annihilation, where you're doing that hex crawl through jungles for 75% of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Or Baldur's Gate, the Descent into Avernus, where you are traversing a hellscape for large swaths of that game. Storm King's Thunder is a lot of overland travel as well. And extreme condition overland travel. We just don't see enough of that. Survival needs to be used way more. And then you're rewarding your player that chose to be a ranger for some stupid reason.
You're welcome. Here's this boon.
Yeah.
No, I think I was going to say that along as nature and medicine, I feel aren't necessarily utilized as either, in my opinion, the right way or enough. Medicine is only ever used when someone has run out of their spell slots.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody knows how to use healer's kits, and that's a big factor. And, to your point, you're absolutely right. Right now, we're in a campaign with a cleric and a bard, and the bard has cure wounds. Why would we ever?
Yeah.
Right? In the previous campaign, we had a paladin who consistently healed herself and no one else.
100%.
Yeah.
Use your medicine checks, bitches.
Yeah. I did that as a cleric as well. So.
Yeah. And that's actually the complaint that I heard from the cleric last night when we went for coffee. She was sitting there going, I feel like all I do is heal and run to catch up with the rest of the party.
Yeah.
It takes me 2 rounds to get to them, and then by then they're face down in the mud, and I've got to heal them. And I'm like, that is accurate. Yes, that is what a cleric does in Tier 1.
Yeah.
I made my cleric fly and fuck everybody, so...
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I made my paladin just not give a shit. But to be fair, she did rescue people when it was required, but she let people make their own fucking mistakes. I don't want to talk about that.
Still too soon.
Too soon.
Is there one skill that you would like to add to 5th edition?
Now's the time.
Now's the time.
Appraisal!
I think appraise is such a good skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I would like to see more of. It's a big one in Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Right? And it was really useful in previous editions as well, especially in high magic item campaigns. We are not supposed to have a whole shit ton of magic items in 5th edition, which is why I think they left it out.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that you can sit down for an hour with whatever it is and go, oh, 25,000 years ago, this god made it like...
Yeah,
okay,
hate that
fine.
rule. Don't like it.
No.
Never using it.
One skill that I would like to add is cooking.
Cute.
I think that I don't know if it's actually cooking necessarily, like, yes, meal prep, and it should be able to help you, like, you get 1 free hit dice or something to, like, I feel like this is a feat. I think one of them is called Chef's something. There's a feat about being a chef.
Interesting.
But, I think that you should be able to cook to regain hit points faster, or the same way that medicine lets you stabilize.
Like
right?
how in a video game, if you have certain ingredients, you mix them together, you get a potion.
Yeah, like basic alchemy. Also making poisons. If poison was actually supported in 5th ed, cooking would be really good as well. Like, that's something that I would like to see, and I think that there's an avenue to be explored there. So, what do you think, Megan?
I want to add something along the lines of, I think this would solve a couple of problems that we brought up before, in the sense of being able to find out if someone is noble, or being able to find out what's happening in the streets, but not necessarily using streetwise. I like lore. So not necessarily history, but the lore of a place. So we use this a lot in L5R, and I think that D&D would benefit from this a lot, is like having a lore, and then you can actually like fine tune it. So you have a lore of cities, you have a lore of creatures or something like that, so that when you go into a city, you know the nobility path, you know the history of it. You don't have to do a history check because you know the lore of the place.
This would also solve a lot of my problems when I DM people that have played in a million games. At this point, I am a sentence and a half into the description of a creature, and Dan and Dave look at each other and go, so it's clearly this, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's absolutely that. I'm like, well, fuck.
I've complained about this a number of times.
Yeah,
and
because it doesn't quite fit into a history check. It doesn't quite fit into a survival check. But like, what does my character know what this creature is? Give me a lore.
So the way that I run it personally in my own games, you're right.
Yeah.
I have my own workaround. And my workaround is, if it's from the planes, it's an arcana check. If it has to do with gods and demigods, it's a religion check, or cults, it's a religion check. If it has to do with beasts and plants, it's a nature check. And if it has to do with armies and humanoids, it's a history check. And if it's dragons, you can use any one of the checks.
Yeah.
Because dragons are inherently linked to religions and cults, as well as the planes, as well as personal history of kingdoms, and they're out in like nature. They're what nature sprung from, right? Like, so that's kind of how I look at that in order to get a lore check. How often does Dan ask me, as a fucking bard, do I know anything about this creature?
Every 10 minutes.
Fuck. And thank God his character's from Ravnica, and they've got a very small bestiary in there. Yeah. Because I'm like, no, you fucking don't.
You don't.
You absolutely. Why would you? And I ask him, why would you know this?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sit the fuck down. Yeah. Right. So let's real quick. I know that I'm just babbling here, but really quickly, in the player's handbook on page 175, there are other non-standard examples of how to use the ability checks outside of the skills. So when you're thinking about these things, think about it like this. Strength is not just athletics. It's also forcing open a stuck, locked, or barred door, breaking free of bonds, pushing through a tunnel that's too small, hanging onto a wagon while being dragged behind it, tipping over a statue, and keeping a boulder from rolling. It's not just athletics. There's a lot of shit to do in there. Mm-hmm. Dexterity is controlling a heavily laden cart on a steep descent, steering a chariot around a tight turn, picking a lock, disabling a trap. We see a lot of that. I mean, that's sleight of hand, but there are other ways to do that too.
Yeah.
Securely tie up a prisoner, wriggle free of bonds, play a stringed instrument, or craft a small or detailed object. You notice play a stringed instrument is under dexterity and not performance, or not charisma, which is where performance is.
Interesting.
Under Constitution, it says you can roll con checks to hold your breath, march or labor for hours without rest, go without sleep, survive without food or water, or quaff an entire stein of ale in one go.
Love that.
Yeah. That's called the Dwarven check. Yeah. For intelligence, you are communicating with a creature without using words, estimating the value of a precious item. There's your appraise.
There we go.
Pull together a disguise to pass as a city guard. So that's intelligence and not charisma for that. So not performance or deception.
Interesting.
Do you know enough of the local culture to be able to put the disguise together?
To exude.
It does make sense because nothing drives me more crazy as a former military person. When I see like movies or something and I go and I can spot who the real soldiers are compared to the actors or the extras, I'll go, that, not real, like that fast, yeah. As soon as it comes up on the screen. Yeah, I watched a video on YouTube of when people, like fuck with the Queen's Guards and stuff, and it came on, I went, that's not real, that's set up. He's real, that's set up. Like, just immediately. Yeah, but
interesting skill.
But it is investigation in that it doesn't matter how charismatic you are in pulling it off. You know immediately whether that uniform is correct or not, and it would be more investigation, I think, to do that.
Yeah.
You can also forge a document using intelligence, so not sleight of hand.
Yeah, there's a forgery. Yeah.
Yep. Recall lore about a craft or trade, Megan.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or win a game of skill. So this would be chess as opposed to dice.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom lets you use a gut feeling about what course of action to follow. That one's a real slippery slope.
That I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of that one.
Or discern whether a seemingly dead or living creature is undead. Just at a like you would roll a wisdom check to be like, is that guy way down that alley there that's shuffling along? Is he drunk or is he a zombie?
Right.
For charisma, you can find the best person to talk to for news, rumors, or gossip. There's my gather information. Or blend into a crowd to get a sense of key topics of conversation. There are there's also a variant that lets you say that you can use skills with different abilities. And this is the main thing that I think that people... We've kind of skirted around it, but I want to say it like really, really specifically because I don't think most people realize you can do this. Most dungeon masters. You can use an intimidation check based on strength instead of based on charisma. That's absolutely it's a variant, but it's something that most DMs inherently do once they have enough experience. So the idea that it doesn't make sense for you to have a performance check that's based on charisma when you're juggling. That's dexterity. I mean, I make Charlie and Dan roll performance checks all of the time because they're both from a circus, but Charlie juggles flaming knives and Dan is a bard. He plays instruments, right?
Yeah.
One of them is dexterity based, one of them is charisma based, but because Charlie is proficient with his tool set, I allowed him to add his proficiency to it regardless with his dex modifier instead of charisma.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to say that, to just say, hey, I think you would be proficient with this. What's your dex plus your proficiency bonus? Add that to your D20 roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
you can do that across the board. I come up with examples for the other ones too. Athletics should be also a constitution. If you are swimming for like a long distance or from the ship to the shore. That's not necessarily strength. That's constitution to me.
Yeah.
Perception for intelligence. For example, I love going to museums. I don't necessarily get the same shit out of art that an art history major would. And all they have different is training. Yeah. Right? They have put the time and effort, their intelligence modifier into this. So they can see the art, but they don't see it the same way that I see the art. Mm-hmm. They get more shit out of it. I don't understand why clerics and druids are wisdom casters, but religion is an intelligence check.
Okay, yeah, very well.
Yeah, I never thought about it.
Should be wisdom, I think.
Yeah.
Would my god want me to do this? Should not be an intelligence check. That's a wisdom check.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the argument might be like how well you know the texts or something.
Or the studying. Yeah.
Like the doctrine or whatever.
I just figured that by level 10, you know it.
Yeah.
You just know it.
I'm just thinking of like, and I know we've had this conversation of like Harry Potters are sorcerers and not wizards, but I'm just imagining the Leviosa versus the Leviosa. Like that to me is an intelligence, not a...
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that would be, that's why Arcana is an intelligence check.
Yeah.
But I think that a sorcerer being able to know, like Luke using the Force, that's not an intelligence check. That is a charisma check.
Yeah, fair.
Right? And that's sorcerer shit, right? So
magic.
And then stealth. I really like the idea of, like you said before, walking through the crowd, rolling a stealth check using charisma as well, right?
100%.
Can you blend in?
Yeah.
There are a number of ability check proficiencies by class that are given. If you want to know whether or not someone would inherently be good at something, it actually breaks it down by class. I'm going to go through it really quickly, except Artificer, because this came out before Eberron did. Starting from, let's say, the bottom and working our way up. Wizards are just inherently proficient with ability checks of intelligence or wisdom. Okay? Warlocks are intelligence or charisma. Sorcerers are also intelligence or charisma. That one feels a little weird to me. I would have liked wisdom, but okay.
Yeah.
Rogues are dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. I guess that depends on your subclass. Rangers are strength, dexterity, or wisdom. Well, because they're out in the world, right? They're going to be jumping and swimming and climbing, and that's
so your athletics and your yeah, that makes sense.
Chopping wood.
Yeah, there we go. Chopping wood, like some guys on TikTok that are just apparently thirst traps for everybody.
I love that you were in the ladies of Mimic chat.
Yeah, it's me and like 4 girls sitting there talking about TikTok guys without shirts on, and I'm learning shit about myself.
You're welcome.
Paladins are strength, wisdom, and charisma.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Monks are strength, dexterity, or intelligence.
Yeah.
Not wisdom.
No.
What? What's your key point? Shit, like aren't monks wise?
I think that it fits in the same kind of conversation before though. Like monks are it's training. It's you things that you remember and things you became inherently good at because of a knowledge base.
But it's also like your force of will as well, and your connection to the world. And I could make a strong argument for pretty much every single one.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Fighters are strength, dexterity, or wisdom.
Yeah, that checks out.
And I guess wisdom because animal handling.
Yeah.
For when you have a steed, or battle master.
Understanding of what's going on. I think their attunement to the world is probably important.
Perception, yeah, I think so as well. Druid is intelligence or wisdom. Cleric is intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Bard is literally fucking anything.
Yes.
And barbarian is strength, dex, or wisdom. So that's, I guess, like a good guide to just if you need to know whether or not they would be proficient at this one weird skill I want them to roll.
Yeah.
You'd look at this table. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. From Xanathar's, it talks a lot about tool proficiencies. Now, we went through tool proficiencies in the Monks episode called Martial Artisans. Didn't that take like an hour and a half?
It was a good time.
Yeah.
But it was a long time.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
So... It does say that you can make tool proficiencies more attractive choices for characters. And if you want to, you can use a couple of different methods. One of them is simply just giving advantage. If the use of a tool and the use of a skill both apply to a check, and a character is proficient with the tool and the skill, consider allowing the character to make the check with advantage. I do that all the time anyway. Yeah. I don't like to do... Do you guys? Is that...
Feels natural.
Yeah, it just feels good. The thief with the sleight of hand and the thieves' tools, yes, they can pick the lock with advantage.
Yeah.
The other one is added benefit. In addition, consider giving characters who have both a relevant skill and a relevant tool proficiency an added benefit on a successful check. The benefit might be in the form of more detailed information, or it could simulate the effect of a different sort of successful check. For example, a character proficient with Mason's tools makes a successful wisdom perception check to find a secret door in a stone wall. Not only does the character notice the door's presence, but you decide that the tool proficiency entitles a character to an automatic success to determine how to open the door. That feels good. Like, we talk about the varying degrees of failure.
Yeah.
There should be varying degrees of success too. And if you have everything you need, plus you're proficient, which means you're trained in this, yeah, why would you fucking not?
Why would you not know? Yeah.
So, let's grab dice and roll initiative again.
5.
I got a 1.
7.
All right, Megan. Do you like the idea of like fluid skill checks? Which is to say, like not locked in where performance has to be charisma? Or do you prefer, the way that old editions ran where the skill was tied to a specific ability score?
I think that 5th edition gives us the fluidity naturally to be able to blend in between different skill checks and things like that. And I think that's what makes 5th edition good and fun. And to your point, feels good for the players.
Yeah.
And also feels good for the DMs because you're giving them the opportunity to do something different, to be a little bit more successful, or making things slightly more challenging for people that, min-max the shit out of things. You're like, okay, well, actually, technically what you're doing might be this. Let's try it this route.
Mm-hmm.
The fluidity gives it a better customization so that your players have more fun and your DM can have more fun depending on what's happening. So yes, I like the fluid checks better.
Yeah, I agree. It gives the DM more control over the situation. I fucking hate min-maxing unless it's a one-shot. And this ensures that there's still going to be challenge there, but it also, to Megan's point, provides an opportunity for players to feel much more reward by moving away from a standard ability.
Yeah, it comes back to when we talked about getting too granular with the skills in general. Like, if you get too granular with them and too detailed, then I feel like it sucks the fun out of it. Because you're like, oh, I'm sorry, you are not a mason. It's like, okay, but it's a door. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Honestly, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is the answer to the granular topic. You can do anything with anything, but it takes a little bit of intuition to do that. It takes a little bit of experience as a DM to figure that out. And you've got to read all of the player's handbook, all of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and all of Xanathar's to be able to figure that shit out and put it all together.
Yeah.
It's not really Tier 1 D&D. Put all that shit in one chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Just fucking do that so that we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And don't do it if it's going to make your life harder. That's what I would say. This is supposed to make the game more fun. If it's going to stress you more as a DM, just do it the standard way.
Yeah, this also lets us have the players feel more empowered, even on the weird shit, instead of less empowered, because they don't have enough points into whatever weird, obscure appraisal or gather knowledge or lore check that they didn't get, so they're always just rolling a straight D20. Doesn't feel great. But now you're coming up with special use cases to say, hey, you have these tools, or you're proficient in this over here, or you're a barbarian, so you're naturally strong. Yeah, you'll get advantage. Or yes, you can roll on this, or add your proficiency modifier. Because it's fluid, it feels better, and it gives you more agency as a player instead of less.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of agency as a player, I think, Megan, you're going to talk to us about tying people up?
Absolutely I am.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm going to start, and then we'll work our way to a couple of different things.
And we don't kink shame on this podcast.
No, we don't.
We don't. Absolutely not. So here we go.
If it's fluid, it feels better, as Adam said.
Moist.
You're goddamn right.
So yeah, we're going to go through a couple of different variant rules in terms of a couple of different areas. So I'm going to talk about tying knots for a hot sec. Or, sorry, what did you say? A hot minute?
Maybe I got it from you, actually.
Maybe, because I say hot sec a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hot sex coming from... No, all right,
I'm talking about tying knots.
Yes, right.
Coming from this table.
Yeah.
So I've been a part of campaigns where this has actually come into consideration on a regular basis, whether it be through sailing in a pirate-themed campaign, or also playing through, torture scenes or just intense interrogations as a whole.
Or downtime with any one of Terry's characters.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So Xanathar's does give us an alternate way to determine the strength and accuracy of good rope play. Whoopst ever is tying the knot. Makes...
You do it all the time, but you only do it in episodes that I edit, not ones that I'm at. This is the first time. Fuck. God. The word whomst.
You're also doing that thing which happens a lot these days, where super out there things people will try and talk about in a normal voice.
Yeah.
Like, so what you're doing is you're like, so what we're going to do is we're just going to tie a few knots and try a few different positions. And it's like, don't use a normal voice when you know you're talking about something which is out there, okay?
Like,
all know what you're doing.
Torturing people.
Yeah.
And I know that seems normal. This is part of why you're intimidating.
Guys! Learning so much about myself today.
Yeah. So there's a few different sizes. Stop using a normal voice.
My Lanta, can I just get through this, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I feel like Terry right now. I'm getting a little flustered. All right. Whoopst ever is tying the knot.
That is annoying, isn't it?
All right, whoever is tying the knot makes an intelligence roll or sleight of hand, and the total of the check is then the DC for someone to attempt to undo that knot.
It's interesting that it's intelligence or sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Right? That's a perfect example of that not lining up to just be another dexterity check.
Right.
Yeah. Because then it flips into, yes, that it becomes a DC to be able to undo the knot, or they can use Dex, which is the acrobatics, to slip out of the knot.
Yeah.
How long does it take to tie the knot?
It doesn't have a time frame.
Well, normally you've got to be engaged for a while first, right?
I mean, depending who you're paying.
What's interesting as well, although it doesn't say it in the tying the knot section, it does mention it in the strength section that you can break knots and break bonds using a strength check as well. But I guess that's like the strength of the rope.
I guess so.
Or the chain as opposed to the knot itself.
Yeah, because I imagine, like, your barbarian's going to be like, I'm just going to try and muscle my way out of this.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that, like, if you think about variant rules and the fact that we want to do a more fluid thing, I feel like you could just say, absolutely, give me a strength check, but the DC might be higher depending on, like, if you're on a sailing ship and the ropes are solid ropes, or if you're just in a dungeon and the rope's 50,000 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's some things as a DM that you can take into consideration when using more of those fluid rules, right?
Yep.
Cool. Do you have any questions about tying knots?
No, I was in Scouts. I know some shit.
Absolutely,
yeah.
I was too. All right,
I read some books and watched some YouTube videos. We'll go.
Yeah,
I use my hemp and rope.
Hemp and rope.
Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
Thanks, Bianca.
No, I've done it so many times.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to move into a couple of rules around falling as a whole. So, with falling, this is something players tend to forget to take into account and they probably feel as you know, explorers, we feel safe on the ground.
Yeah.
But it happens a lot. Like, even if you're in a dungeon, you could fall down a pit. Even if you're in a battle, then you can, like, fall off a cliff. Like, falling just happens.
I think it's my favorite way to cause damage, actually.
Yeah. So, for those that don't quite know, the basic way of taking damage for fall damage is 1d6 per 10 feet, up to a max of 20d6, and then you land prone. Unless you manage to not take damage.
Boo. Boo, the max.
Very, very, very simple.
Boo, terminal velocity. I want to make you a pancake.
Yeah.
Boo. You should splash when you hit the ground.
So here we go. Let me give you some options here. So Xanathar's does give 2 alternate options for falling, or just things to take into consideration. So the first thing is the rate of falling, which basically refers to that awkward moment when it takes a few turns to fall. So, like if you jump off a building that's 300 feet high, how do you determine the damage and the turns in rounds, etc.? Because, like, if you're only going to move 60 feet in the air...
Yeah, you're falling for, like, 30
5
seconds.
rounds. So yeah, it's like, okay. So basically one of the rules is that you just, once you start falling, you automatically fall 500 feet. This would help kind of... Yeah, so this does help speed up the rate of play in my mind, and you can have your character just not falling for an entire battle. Yeah. But the damage is pretty much the same, from what I understand, unless I'm incorrect in that.
Well, yeah, if it's maximum 20, that's 100 feet.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 200 feet.
You're just taking max damage.
Yeah, you're just taking max damage if you fall 500 feet. So out of an airship or off a dragon, like, there's not a whole lot of opportunities to fall 500
feet. But it's there.
It's there. Oh, it's definitely there.
Yeah. And then I think that if
They'll
you were...
find it.
Yeah. The point of that whole variant rule is that, like, you're not falling for 7 rounds while you're fighting or what have you.
I think I would prefer that, though.
I know, I was thinking about this too, where I was just like, I kind of like that opportunity to do things while I'm falling.
Right, Misty Step or something.
Yeah.
Or continue to fight like Gandalf did.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a 50-50 for me.
The terminal velocity of a human, thank you, Google.
Good.
Yeah, is about 66 meters per second, or 216 feet per second. 216 feet per second around is 6 seconds, so 1,200 feet.
Wow.
So even 500 feet is slow.
Yeah.
It's you, like, flapping on the way down.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, then I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Love it. The second thing Xanathar's gives us is that the idea of flying creatures that are innately able to fly are then suddenly falling. So like a bird or a dragon or something like that, right? This pertains to, again, to your flying creatures if they suddenly drop to a movement of 0. So this has come up a few times within our campaign, like I'm floating or I'm hovering or whatever, and my movement drops to 0. What does that mean?
Yeah.
This variant rule kind of helps you with this.
If you're hovering, though...
Sorry, it doesn't include magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also things like beholders can't fall.
Yeah.
If their movement speed becomes 0, they just hover in their place.
They're just, this is just where I am now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lie down in the air.
Yeah, just rotate 90 degrees.
Yeah. So basically what you do is you subtract the character's flying speed from the distance that it fell to kind of calculate its fall damage. So like, for instance, if you have a 30-foot fly speed and you fall 60 feet, then you would only take the 3d6 in fall damage.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So you half it. The idea here is that a flying creature would do their best to stabilize themselves because they have an awareness of how to fly and stay aloft.
What about if their movement speed becomes 0 because they're paralyzed?
Then in my head, they hit. They're no longer a flying creature. They are a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're no longer... This is like if it just takes damage or...
Yeah, like if they're stunned and they can flap their wings, but it's going to be bad, so they can like mitigate half of the damage. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now we're going to move on to some things that Tasha's gives us. One of those is falling into water. So so we have a few variant rules here, such as falling into water. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote that 7,000 different times.
A spell right now.
This is what I do with my hands.
Leviosa.
Yeah, Leviosa. So Tasha's does give us the idea of falling into water.
She's like Puff Daddy in a 1997
Can I
video, just like with all the arm movements at the camera. You know what I mean?
I use my hands when I talk. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, man. Okay, so the idea of falling into water doesn't necessarily mean just water. It does say that anything that is liquid itself.
Sure.
So this is where a creature can use a reaction to make a DC 15 strength save, athletics, or dex acrobatics to either land feet first or head first.
Well, I mean, no, but that's for diving, right? Like, I get that.
Yeah.
They should just be more specific because...
I just like how that is worded that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but what if I just wanted to do a backflip, like a belly flop or whatever, right? But if they are successful, they only take half the damage.
Sure. That makes sense, though, right? Like, you think about how people dive from these huge, great heights, and they don't take real damage.
Yeah, like if your team is running away and they dive off of a cliff and like into the water below, right?
Yeah.
Like some kind of Pirates of the Caribbean bullshit. Like that's a good way to kind of determine whether they take the full damage or not instead of hitting concrete or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Another thing Tasha's gives us is basically what if you fall on another creature, which we talked about.
Yeah, you squish a hobgoblin.
Again, which I think we jokingly comment about a lot. So if neither creature is tiny, very specific to say that, then the creature that is being landed upon needs to make a DC 15 dex save or be smacked by the falling creature. And the damage is then split evenly between the two creatures.
Now, you see, I feel like if the Tarrasque lands on a halfling, that shouldn't necessarily be split evenly between the two.
I don't think the damage should be split evenly at all. I think they should both receive the same amount of damage.
Yeah?
Yeah, if I jumped off the building onto you, Megan, it's going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt me any less than if you weren't there. But it's still going to hurt
You're
you.
still hitting the ground.
Yeah.
I just happen to be in between the two.
Look, I always think about the way that the Kraken throw mechanic works, because it can hurl people with the tentacles, right? And the idea is that when they hurl you, you move sideways and then hit shit at the same damage that you do falling, right?
Yeah.
So if you are flung sideways, therefore, immovable object, and I'd take the damage.
Yeah.
If I'm standing still and something moving 60 kilometers an hour hits me, I take 60 kilometers an hour worth of fucking damage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I hear you. Speaking of that, like when we talk about the fluidity of things, there are some very specific rules. I won't touch on all of them, but you can definitely look some of these up if you're ever concerned, like taking into consideration things like monk's slow fall, or like things like feather fall or other things like that. There are some...
At that point, you're mitigating some of the fall damage because you're moving slowly for a portion of it, right?
Yeah, so basically, so slow fall, just to give you guys an idea, you can use your reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your level. So you're just, like, again, mitigating the damage.
Okay.
But, like, again, like, sometimes DMs kind of get lost in, like, what comes first, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Like, do you reduce the damage by 50% first, or do you use the slow fall first? Like, which one goes first? So the idea for the monks one is that, like, the damage is first reduced by slow fall, and then the actual fall damage triggers.
Right.
If that makes sense. I'm trying to make that make sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. First, I always try to go specific and then general, right?
Yeah.
So if your specific ability overrides or somehow impacts the general rule, that triggers first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So then when you're thinking of other, like, specific rules, like if I'm trying to think of a very specific one. Like Spirit Shield is a very specific one where if you're raging and another creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use that reaction to reduce the damage by 2d6. So like if you have your Barbarian fall and they're raging, like that's going to affect the damage. But
that damage has to already be rolled first so then you can reduce it, right?
Exactly, right.
But, well, I mean, it's 2d6. You just roll the 2d6 at the same time that I'm rolling damage. And we just do math.
We just math it out. But yeah, so I think that's when things get confusing for DMs is when you're using a bunch of like, or especially if there's something that has bludgeoning damage reduction, or if you're resistant to bludgeoning damage, which is what fall damage is, right?
Which annoys me. That should be its own unique kind of damage, but that's just me.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think it should be crushing damage.
At that point, my bones just shatter.
Pretty much. Yeah.
All right. All right, but that's pretty much all I have on falling. But there is one really cool variant rule that I feel like kind of fits into this theme a little bit, and that's around the idea of how to run away from an avalanche.
Look, it's going to happen. They put themselves in these positions.
So Tasha's does have a little bit of a rule set on how to handle avalanches, which, if you would all agree that, I feel like you could use this for like rock slides, you can use this for other natural disasters that can occur.
Volcanoes exploding, shit like that.
Exactly, right? So Tasha's does describe this as like
not erupting, exploding.
Exploding.
The mountain just boom.
Like, whoopsie doodle. But yeah, Tasha's does describe this as or an avalanche being anywhere from 300 feet wide to 150 feet long to about 30 feet thick or height, in my opinion.
So depth of.
Yeah.
What the girth of this avalanche.
What the girth of your avalanche is. That's a solid girth at 30 feet.
Wider than it is long, though, so that's problematic.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes it's not, depending on what you need. So the avalanche does travel to 300 feet until it can't travel anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Whether or not you better get tired yourself first.
Alright, so the basic rules are, if a creature is in the avalanche, they travel along with it, and are considered prone. They then make a strength saving throw with a DC 15, taking 1d10 bludgeoning damage on a failed save or half on a success. So you can live in an avalanche for quite some time.
That's fun.
Yeah. But then again, it is 300 feet, like, of whee!
Yeah, you're doing this over and over and over. Your wizard's gonna die. Your barbarian might. It's bludgeoning damage, right?
Yeah.
The barbarian's like, wee!
This is what a great time we're having. But, however, this is how it kills them. So when the avalanche does stop, the creature is then buried. So I thought about this when you told us your dragon story. Like,
It's my new favorite thing, is using the different types of speeds.
Burying people.
Yeah.
But when you're buried, it does make you blind and restrained, and you are within total cover. So, like, if you have the wizard trying to find you or using spells to try and heal you, they can't see you.
Yeah.
Being buried this way also gives 1 level of exhaustion per every 5 minutes you are buried. So if you are there for too long, you will not have the strength to get yourself out.
So, yeah, that's a half hour. That still seems too long. But
however, it gets worse.
Yay.
So on their turn, you can try and dig yourself out as an action on a DC 15 strength check, and to kind of like pull yourself your speed or what have you, or But if you fail 3 times, you can no longer dig.
Oh no!
So it's kind of like a fail save. It's a death save.
That's death.
So if you fail 3 times, then you are buried.
And then you rely on other people to come get you.
Exactly.
Oh no!
This is great.
Yeah.
Huh.
So if you end up rolling and failing, or like getting exhausted, like it just compiles, and then you just die in there. But the girth is only 30 feet. But you would have to know what direction to dig, which means in my mind, this brings in those variant rules of a survival roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
To know which direction to go.
Yeah, survival.
Yeah. But yeah.
Huh. Wow.
That was a fun adventure. We went from rope tying to falling to just being buried alive.
No matter how we do it, we're getting restrained and we can't move, right?
Yeah.
Unless we're plunging into the ground. Let's roll.
Yay!
Nice.
2.
15.
5. All right, Terry, how do you feel about the fall rules?
Yeah, I don't mind them. I can work with them. There's enough there's enough ways to work around it where I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. So I don't mind the falling rules if I'm on it.
I think they're not deadly enough. If I kick your ass off of an airship in Eberron, you should die. Short of something miraculous happening, you should die.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of players Wile E. Coyoteing their way through this shit. Like, they leave a crater in the ground and they get up and that's all.
If you land on a spike, Adam, should you take the bludgeoning damage from the floor and the piercing damage from the spike?
That's always how I run it.
I feel like you would take the piercing damage first and then the bludgeoning damage.
Get permission for these things.
Yeah. However, when it's something like a spiked pit trap or something, I'm not going to give you bludgeoning damage on that. You just fall onto the spike. Like, that's already taken into consideration.
Sure.
But if you are falling off of a building onto some armaments, and you're going to get skewered so badly you hit the ground as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, spike, and then I don't know. I guess maybe that would slow your descent for the last 8 feet.
Depends on how large the spike is.
Just like impaled and then slowly.
If anybody said that, I go, sure. Well, minus 1d6 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Roll your 19d6.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. My biggest concern there is whether or not you are landing head first or feet first, because that impale is real bad both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where you don't want to do that. You want to take it through center mass.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But not sideways.
No.
Gangs in New York, that's a kill. That's a wound. That's a kill. You remember that movie?
I don't know what you're talking
Gangs
about.
in New York?
Never seen it.
That's
Oh,
a wound.
it's-
That's a kill.
Never seen it.
Fuck.
Yeah. If you stab someone in the front, that's a wound. If you stab someone in the side, like, because you're going for the kidneys,
Yeah.
right? Or you're going for
Like the liver or something.
That's very
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet with a tis but
Well-
a scratch.
Yeah.
Both about injuries, but really a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But sure.
Well, he gets stabbed in the side.
Leonardo DiCaprio was in both movies, I guess.
Was he actually?
Yeah, he was dating a 25-year-old at the time.
No.
Isn't he always? Like,
No.
Max?
I'll defend him if your girlfriend's 27 and she's the oldest girlfriend he's ever had.
Is it because the internet called him out on it?
I don't. He's Leonardo DiCaprio. He doesn't give a
He
fuck.
can
what
do
anybody
whatever he
thinks.
wants.
He doesn't
I
care.
feel like Jonah Hill's like, Leo, come on. Date someone closer to your own age.
All right, I'll go 2 years out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty clearly, I love fall damage. I like the way that it works in 5th edition. I just wish it did more. I think it should not have a terminal velocity of 200 max damage. You keep in mind, too, it's not even 200. It's, what was it, 20d6?
Yep, that's 100.
Yeah, but that only...
Max 120.
That's max 120. It's an average of like 61, 65, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's nothing. That's nothing.
It's not a lot, is it really?
No, I mean, even a D6 hit die character is going to survive that on level 12, right? They're going to be and you're making death saves. So even then, like, you hit 0 hit points, you still get up and walk away,
That's true.
right? And it's not enough.
Yeah.
I do like the 1d6 per 10 feet.
And just that.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going. So, yeah.
Do you feel that, like, because, like, my only thing with the falling rules sometimes is when you're playing in a D&D campaign, I sometimes feel like you get pigeonholed as a DM to do it the same way every time. So, like, let's say someone, like, falls off the side of a building and you just do regular fall damage. And then 7 episodes down the line, someone jumps off a cliff and it's like, nope, we're following the same rules. You're like, no, we'll use the variant 500 feet and then so on and so forth. Like, how do you feel about dancing between using variant and using regular?
Well, okay, so the way that I do it myself is I outline how the damage is going to hit. Like, this is a big epic thing. If you're going to fall into a volcano, for example, I'm going to explain to you you're going to take this much fall damage, and these are the dice I'm going to roll. And then on top of that, we're doing heat damage from that. And you got to do swim checks to get out of the lab. Like, I'm going to lay it all out for you. But only in the big extreme things. If you're falling off a 2nd-story building, no. I'm just
Regular
rolling
fall
damage.
damage,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the
Fair.
moment it starts to get epic, like, it's a set piece kind of level of damage.
Yeah.
I'm going to lay it all out. And then I kind of pause as if waiting for someone to argue.
Yeah.
Because if someone says, well, wait a minute, in the past we've done it this way, then my response, I either have to justify why I say that.
Yeah.
Like, we are working as a team. I'm not a confrontational DM on this.
Yeah.
If you absolutely hate that or you think it's unfair, fine. I don't want you to have a bad time. I'm willing to let this go. But I then say, moving forward,
Yeah.
we will be rolling it like this. This is the rule moving forward. And I've done that recently with flanking rules.
Yes.
We don't play with flanking rules anymore.
What? I love flanking.
Yeah,
rules.
we don't fight
Yeah.
none more.
But it means that the rogue is always getting the sneak attack in all of the fucking time.
But
It
they only
really-
get one attack, and the rogue is I'll fight this to the death. It's their whole life is trying to position themselves in the right position to get that one attack.
Right. So then why do they get advantage in the same way that the paladin also gets advantage? Right. So like I I feel like it's taking away a little bit from the rogue and also making their special unique move more mundane. So I took away flanking rules to let the rogue feel more special. When sneak attack hits, it's better. And Charlie's playing a swashbuckler.
Yeah.
So he's getting all sorts of advantage and shit all the time on stuff anyway. So it's
It mostly came up because Charlie and my character tend to just...
the monk and the rogue.
Well, flanking is direct opposite, but you can get that. The only way that relates to sneak attack is because direct opposite gives you advantage, but you don't need to be directly opposite for sneak attack to kick in.
Flanking.
You don't need advantage.
Flanking rules I thought was just adjacent. I thought it was essentially pack tactics.
So yeah, basically pack tactics is how we played it at our table.
I think it's opposite.
But
5e flanked.
Because sneak attack is advantage on the roll or an ally within 5 feet of the enemy.
When a creature and at least one ally are within 5 feet of the same enemy on opposite sides, that enemy is flanked.
Opposite side.
Right. It starts to get a little bit fucky though when you're playing on a grid, right? Where you have to be in the exact correct space. Like the rogue is not able to do that in most hallways now because you can't get to the other side of the creature, right? So I don't know. I don't play with flanking rules. I think that they're too powerful. It rewards everybody instead of just the rogue, and the rogue then feels more mundane. I'm really conscious about not stepping on other subclasses and classes' toes about stuff as well.
I don't miss it that much, to be honest with you.
No.
Because I like movement and position.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Anyway, that was a segue.
What are your thoughts on the avalanche rules, Terry?
You know what? I like the avalanche rules because if I didn't hear them from Megan then, and I had to come up with them because I would have forgot to look in Tasha's or something, I probably would have done something very similar to that.
Yep.
So it lines up with my train of thought.
Yeah.
They're super fucking deadly.
Yeah.
I would be really, really hesitant to use that 3 times and you're dead shit. Or it's not even 3 times you're dead. 3 times and you can't dig anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you're slowly dying.
Yeah, and you're slowly dying, and everybody else is just like digging randomly, and you as a DM have to swap over to Theater of the Mind. Are you able to do perception checks to hear them screaming for help? Can they take breaths deep enough? Have they dug themselves upwards or downwards? Where was the last place that we saw them? Is there other shit? Like, the problem with an avalanche is not just that it is like mud or snow on top of you. It's also trees and rocks and other shit too, right? Like, there's a lot to go through. It feels really deadly. Really, really deadly. If you get caught in an avalanche, you're... I'm going to use all the avalanche rules except for that dig, like the 3 times, unless I'm dealing with a tier 3 party or more.
Yeah, because like I feel like the exhaustion brings in, like, if you're taking way too long to do it, that is going to be your sense of urgency. And in my mind, you don't need the extra added, but if you fail 3 times, then you're fucked.
Yeah, the only way I would maybe adjust that slightly so that they could keep digging would be to take something that you taught me, Adam, which is if you can change the situation, then you can try again.
Yeah, and that's my big thing on all skill checks in general.
Yeah.
If you roll perception and you fail and you want to roll again, what did you do differently to make this a different kind of scenario, different situation to roll in, right? So I guess that's something I would do but I mean, what are you going to do differently when you're buried alive? I mean, right? Like,
you might say, okay, I pick up the snow to see which way it falls, and then I poke my rapier up and I can see light, and now I oxygen. Okay, try again.
Sure.
I'm sure you can get creative when you're panicking, right?
Players,
sense of agency gives you the creativity.
Yeah. If I can be honest, I would just say I would split the difference and say that 3 failures thing is not a factor, and you have 10 rounds.
Yeah, there you go.
Because people fucking panic.
Yeah.
So.
And 10 rounds is a long time.
Yep, 10 rounds is a full minute. You have a minute to claw your way out, or you start doing death saves.
I like how I just admitted that 1 minute is a long time.
1 minute is a long time.
Depends what's going on, really. Depends what the activity is today.
I have a legitimate fear of being buried alive. Like, that's something that fucking terrifies me. So the idea of a full minute of that. Yeah. Also, we live in Vancouver, where I think about that shit every time that everyone mentions an earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about getting crushed. I'm worried about getting trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything with my arms restricted like this, I can't.
Yeah.
I think it must be something from getting rolled up in a carpet as a kid or something. My arms are restricted.
Why were you rolled up? What child mafia did you piss off?
Look, man. Just happens, doesn't it? Find yourself in a situation.
That's it. You're just gonna trail off with that. Yeah. We're not getting any more. Terry had a rough childhood with the Kid Mafia pissed off the wrong Tooth Fairy, and
I don't know why I got rolled up in a carpet, but I feel like it definitely happened. You must have contributed to the
current kinks that you have?
Why does it always go back to kinks with you?
I'm just saying, internalized childhood trauma creates your kinks as an adult.
I feel like it gets to a point where...
Hold on.
Think about it. Put it together. Think about it.
I feel like it gets to a point with some stuff where it's not even kinks anymore. It's just like Tuesday. Not like Dan made a joke the other day, and he was like, "Oh, Terry with his fluffy handcuffs," and I was like, "Fluffy handcuffs is such a fucking noob thing to do, Dan. You're fucking choking on your own spit and praying to God when you're with me, son." Next, moving on.
I think Adam's thinking about it now.
Oh yeah, no, this is not a small conversation I have to have with myself.
Yeah, there you go.
There's going to be some soul searching. Terry,
Fluffy.
What do you got for us?
I think it's more perverted if they're fluffy to me. Okay. What have I got for us?
Creates false expectations. Yeah, all right. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
No, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you guys about carrying. Okay, and we're going to, I'm going to start specifically by just revisiting the rules for carrying capacity and strength rules.
Okay.
Because it's not always clear to people. So your strength score is what determines the amount of weight that your body can bear, your character's body can bear. And these following terms will define what you can lift and carry. So for your carrying capacity, your strength score multiplied by 15 is your carrying capacity. This weight is in pounds. And that is high enough that most characters usually don't have to worry about it. It's a little bit different for pushing, dragging, or lifting. So you can push, drag, or lift a weight in pounds up to twice your carrying capacity, or 30 times your strength score. While you are pushing or dragging weight in excess of your carrying capacity, your speed drops to 5 feet.
Okay.
When it comes to size and strength, larger creatures, obviously, can bear more weight, whereas tiny creatures can bear less. For each size category above medium, you double the creature's carrying capacity and the amount it can push, drag, or lift. For a tiny creature, you halve weights. Now, we have a variant rule in 5th edition for encumbrance. So if you carry weight in excess of 5 times your strength score, you are encumbered, which means your speed drops by 10 feet. You can also be heavily encumbered. If you carry weight in excess of 10 times your strength score up to your maximum carrying capacity, you are instead heavily encumbered, which means your speed now drops by 20 feet and you have disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws that use strength, dexterity, or constitution. Okay, when it comes to equipment sizes...
Hold on. Ability, your strength score, not your strength mod, right?
Right. Your strength score, not your modifier.
So,
that's correct.
So that is, you said 10 times. So the average peasant, for example, is heavily encumbered above 100 pounds.
Right. Or encumbered above 50 pounds. So if you had a 50-pound pack...
Well, if you're carrying 100 pounds, if your average person is carrying 100 pounds, you have disadvantage on fighting. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even just trying to move things around.
Yeah, unless you're running in a straight line, you're not looking behind you.
That's it.
Serpentine.
That's it. Okay. Yeah. Incidentally, make sure your backpack is the last thing you put on, because if you get attacked, shot at or something, the backpack comes straight off. Make sure it's not underneath your webbing and your equipment and stuff, or you're fucking dead. Or turn around.
I'm learning so much today.
There you go. You're welcome. Backpack's the last thing to go on. Okay, when it comes to equipment sizes, this is something I don't follow too closely, but I'll get your guys' opinion on. So, like armor and stuff, and different equipment that you would wear is going to be set to a certain size creature. A medium creature means that naturally your plate armor probably shouldn't fit the gnome if they decide that they want to put it on, and also probably shouldn't fit the minotaur because they're considered large, I think, right?
The medium.
Right? Well, the player character is medium. The monster is large.
Oh, that's right. That is correct. Yeah.
Because all I am thinking about is in our campaign we did play out a scene where our furbolg put on a piece of armor that was like a regular size, and we told him it was a crop top.
Like a crop top? Oh,
yeah,
right.
And his belly was hanging out.
Yeah.
He still got all the benefits of it, but it's for flavor purposes.
Oh.
His belly was hanging out.
I love it. Okay, I meant to grab a player's handbook, Adam, if we have one, so we can take a look at armor, weapons, and gear lists.
Yep.
Up top.
Top left. Those are in chronological order. Page 150.
46.
46.
What did you say? 150?
Yeah.
He's correct.
That's gear.
He's correct. Okay, well, we can do, let's do armor first. Armor's a couple of pages over.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll fly through these. And what I'm looking for is if any of the weights you think are ridiculous or incorrect. So for light armor, starting with padded, 8 pounds, leather, 10 pounds, studded leather, 13 pounds.
Okay, all right. Padded leather or padded armor, everybody thinks that's just a robe. No, it's 8 pounds. Like, think about how heavy that is. That is like...
It's like wearing a weighted blanket in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, like that shit is heavy. It does protect you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Medium armor, so starting with hide at 12 pounds, chain shirt 20 pounds, Megan, scale mail 45 pounds, breastplate down to 20 pounds, half plate back up to 40 pounds.
Interesting.
Okay, good. Okay.
Following, I guess.
Heavy armor, ring mail at 40 pounds, chain mail 55 pounds, splint 60 pounds, plate mail is 65 pounds.
Splint is... Oh, I guess.
Yeah, splint is heavy. Okay, so a lot of this chainmail, ringmail level shit, when you actually look at how it's constructed, that shit's fucking heavy.
It's layers, right?
It's layers and it's intricate, and it's not like there's one big light panel that's curved and that's what's doing it. It's a bunch of little pieces that are all jammed together, and they're all still made of metal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I assume that it would be damned difficult to, like, and this is why I don't like medieval battle scenes with Battle of the Bastards or Helm's Deep, where they're all just, like, running up and down stairs and hills and shit.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, no way.
You, after 50 feet, you're fucked with that stuff. Shields at 6 pounds. What do you think?
Like what kind of, like just shields in
Just
general?
a shield.
There's no
with 6
kinds of
pounds.
shield
that's
anymore.
But
So
how long can you go like this with 6 pounds? Like, it's going to bother you after a while.
I can wield a 6-pound item
You're
for
looking
quite
like
some
a
time.
You think?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think you guys will struggle, me included. For 6 pounds like this for a long time, it'll bother you. You guys don't seem fazed by this. I think it will.
I just love that we're like in a non-visual, like, and you're trying to say, like, when your arm going like this.
Moving
it's like,
my arm.
he's
Yeah,
moving his arm
nobody
around.
can see you, like, one arm flapping like a handicapped duck over there.
It's like his chicken wing in the corner, being like, it would be difficult. This would be so
Yeah,
difficult.
no, okay, no, you're right, because that's not just about strength, that is about endurance.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it's a
exactly.
maneuver,
Muscular
yeah.
endurance. It's going to bother you sooner than you think. It will bother you.
No, I agree with you. Sorry, I should have said that earlier than just staring you down.
Okay, let me do weapons, because I actually Googled, I DuckDuckGo'd some of these.
Okay.
Did you Alta Vista some of these? Have we Yahoo'd the answers?
Ask Jeeves.
Okay. Let me tell. Quick 30-second story.
I'm
It's
gonna
about my sister.
I'm gonna call Terry Jeeves now, but I think that's racist.
It's back to my sister. My sister and her friend years ago. And the day that this happened, she told me the story, and I almost pissed myself. Went for a job at Ask Jeeves, and then they wanted, like, how did you find out about the company? And they said, I Googled it in the middle of the interview. That was it, right away. Like, it was a trick question. They were like, well, interview fucking over, son. Off you go.
Nice.
Ask
Yeah.
Jeeves,
I
I
love
know.
that.
I would have said the same thing. Okay, some of these surprised me, but I Googled them. And the weights are actually true. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to go through the ones that surprised me. So Warhammer, only 2 pounds.
Yeah, but it's the construction, just the corners on the end of it. Warhammers are small and light and fucking deadly. I used to work at a warehouse for a like hand tools and
I was getting suspicious how long he was trying to
yeah,
get.
sorry, I couldn't think of the word. I was like, utilities? No.
It's like, where are you working that you have Warhammers?
No. But we had like 6-pound sledge, 8-pound sledge, 10-pound sledge. Those things are massive. Those things are way bigger. You couldn't wield that in a battle.
Yeah.
When you see a zombie movie where someone's wielding a sledgehammer, fuck off. No, you swing that shit once and your arms are tired, right? And so, yeah, like a Warhammer, you're taking that into battle to hit over and over and over. 2 pounds.
2
right?
pounds.
And it's the head of it, the construction of the head of it, that's going to make all of the difference, right?
Because I think we often, when we visualize Warhammers, we're visualizing more of like a mall, like that kind of size. And they're coming in at 10 pounds.
Yeah, like... Yeah, with these things that don't end in a point or a blade, it's going to be fucking... I don't know how to say this. The ridges on the head that are going to do the majority of that bludgeoning damage. Can we all just be adults and move forward?
Nope, I can't.
Right? Like it's the fucking corners on the fucking hammer that's going to do the damage.
Pike, 18 pounds. That is by far the heaviest weapon.
Well, pikes are fucking long.
They're giant.
I wonder if that's taking into consideration the idea that shit's
weighted,
like the physics of a lever, right?
Where the weight is.
Yeah, right. And the metal tip is way down the end.
So pikes at 18 pounds are 3 times the weight of a halberd and a glaive. I thought they might be similar in weight.
I am surprised
that those aren't all in the same kind of class. But to your point, maybe
they all have reach, right? They're all reach weapons. So
yeah.
So they all are 10-foot reach. So in theory, they're roughly the same distance.
They're considered the same length, technically.
The same length. And a halberd and a glaive would have, in my head, bigger ends. Like a halberd almost has an axe head at the end of it.
Yeah,
right?
halberds are giant. Yeah.
So I'm surprised that maybe it's, you know what it is, Terry, is maybe because historically speaking, it's the kind of wood that was used, like for the construction of them, for different regions of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like pikes come from a denser wooded kind of area, as opposed to like using yew as opposed to oak.
Fair.
Using me?
Yes, as I like to do.
A heavy crossbow is 18 pounds,
Yeah.
whereas a light crossbow is only 5 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's more than 3 times the weight.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, heavy crossbows are fucking unwieldy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me fly through some adventuring gear here. I almost said alchemist fire, 50 pounds. It's not, it's 50 gold pieces.
50 pounds of alchemist
That's some
fire.
hefty fire.
I could have a good weekend with that shit.
Okay, this one surprised me because I thought it was too heavy, but it was actually not heavy enough. So a barrel at 70 pounds, but I googled it. A French oak barrel is typically around about 90 pounds. I thought 70 pounds was way too heavy for an empty barrel.
Yeah, and you're like, nope, never mind.
And I was like, no, I'm wrong.
Well, it's because the wood is fucking treated over and over and over again, right? Like it's not just the planks. That wood is saturated all of the time
To get the bend. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's waterproof. There's also all sorts of like oils and shit that are all over. Like, fuck, I can't have this conversation. I can't talk. It's all heads and oils.
Sledgehammers are 10 pounds. Remember, warhammers were 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Should I be using a sledgehammer, not a warhammer?
You should be putting an oak barrel on the end of a stick.
I think that's about it for all of the interesting ones. Ladders are 25 pounds, if anybody's interested.
That's bullshit.
How much is a ladder?
I have carried, like, for work, wooden ladders and a 6 foot to 8 foot ladder. I guess normally they're 10 foot because, traditionally speaking, people used to cut the ladders in half and have 2 10-foot poles and then sell the 10-foot poles because they were worth more than the fucking ladders were.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So a 10-foot ladder, 15 pounds.
Right.
Fuck, like, easy. One-handed off the fucking roof of a car and up flights of stairs. No problem. And like
such a weird brag, wasn't it?
No. That's not a brag. I'm not particularly like physically strong guy. Terry,
just the way
you can fucking. They're just light. Wooden ladders are light.
Yeah.
They're designed to be mobile.
To move them
It's
around.
just the way it came up. One-handed off the roof, up the stairs, no problem.
Off the roof of the car.
But I mean, you guys can picture Dan moving a 16 to 18 foot ladder.
Oh
Yeah.
Right? Like, and he that's one-handed walking down the fucking, like, hallway or down the street or whatnot. They're unwieldy, but they're not heavy.
Fair.
Okay, alright, I want to touch on a couple of spells here. In particularly, Tensor's Floating Disc, which I found on the internet. Somebody used it as like a makeshift magic carpet. That was a good idea. It's a first level spell. It has a range of 30 feet. It lasts for an hour. So it creates a circle of force energy, essentially, that is 3 feet in diameter. It's about an inch thick, and it floats 3 feet above the ground. But this disc holds up to 500 pounds, and it follows the caster from a distance of 20 feet away. It can float above any kind of terrain, but not an elevation change of 10 feet or more, so it cannot bypass pits, for example. The spell ends after 1 hour if the caster moves more than 100 feet away, or if more weight is put on the disc than it can handle. But it holds up to 500 pounds.
That's intense.
It's such a very specific skill, like spell, though. Like, I feel like you would have to know that you had to carry something out of a dungeon, or like, it's so specific.
You used it in a one-shot once for some fucking thing.
Yeah, there was a bunch of shit that was, I think, across a lava pit or something. Like, there wasn't a change in elevation. It was just spikes or something. And I used it to cross this barrier, get underneath whatever the podium was, and then lift the thing up and bring it back, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was...
The second one is levitate. I feel like people get this wrong. They confuse it with fly sometimes, I think. One creature or object of your choice that you can see within range rises vertically, and it does so up to 20 feet, and it will remain suspended suspended there for the duration of the spell. This spell can also lift something that weighs up to 500 pounds. An unwilling creature that succeeds on a Constitution saving throw is unaffected, though. So another weight-related one there. But the whole point of this spell is you're just levitating. It's almost as though like you're floating in space. You have to push yourself off walls and objects to be able to move.
And that one's vertical. The other one is specifically horizontal. I feel like you could use both of them in tandem if you have two mages.
Sure.
Right? One's using Tension's floating disc, and the other one can see it as an object and then levitates it. Right? Like, that could be fun. That's a good use of teamwork.
Entertainment, yeah.
Okay, the last thing I want to touch on here, second to last thing I want to touch on is Graviturgy Wizard's Adjust Density trait. And this was brand new to me because I hadn't read into this until the podcast here. So Graviturgy Magic lets you choose from an expanded list of spells when you can learn a wizard spell. And it's these following spells that are added. Okay, so starting at second level, you can do this as an action. You can magically alter the weight of an object or a creature that you can see that is within 30 feet of you. The object or the creature must be a large size or smaller. The target's weight is halved or doubled for up to 1 minute or until your concentration ends. While the weight of the creature is halved by this effect, the creature's speed will increase by 10 feet, and it can now jump twice as far as normal. It does have disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, though. While the weight of the creature is doubled, the creature's speed reduces by 10 feet, and it now has advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. What do you think?
I like it.
It's good and bad.
It's one of those things from one of these books that not everybody buys, right? Because it's from the Wildbound book.
Yeah.
If my players have never seen this before, I'm going to hand that out as a scroll. That's a really cool thing to do, or a wand that can cast.
I was going to say, like, a wand would be really cool to have this a part of. Yeah.
I like this as a utility thing that people can use. I don't love it as a class feature that fucking annoys me.
Yeah.
The fact that you're just messing with my shit for the whole campaign. Right. I got to start thinking 3D as a DM for everything. Oh, we're heading to the elemental plane of air just so I have a reason for people to nail shit down always.
I love it.
Okay, last thing for me is powerful builds. So what powerful builds do is that it makes you count as a large creature for the purpose of lifting and carrying things. So what does that mean exactly? Okay, so by the player's handbook, a medium-sized creature can carry an amount equal to 15 times its strength score in pounds, right? But if you have a powerful build, you are a medium creature, which is considered a large creature for this purpose, which means you would be able to do double that.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So you're a medium-sized creature that, for strength purposes, is considered a large creature.
Okay.
Would be the easiest way I could have put it.
Yeah.
But what are these creatures? Okay, so bugbear, centaur, furbolg, gif, which is the hippopotamus one.
Yeah.
Okay. Goliath, loxodon, which is the elephant thing, and orc.
Yes. Yep. So it's just those ones. They get powerful build. I am so fucking tired of powerful build.
Yeah.
Dan's playing a furbolg right now, and every time that he wants to lift, there was like a 2,000-pound fucking bell in a bell tower that you guys like broke and knocked away, and he's like, "Oh, I could just catch that, right?" No, you are not Superman. You cannot catch that.
No, well you can.
You're a cow. Sit down.
No, yeah. Dan could lift a 50-pound dumbbell if he needed to. You could pick it off the floor. If I throw it at him, it's going to be a very different story.
This bell is it'll take the fall damage. It'll take half the damage the bell takes.
It sounded like I was
hitting the
shitting on Dan
ground.
then because it was Dan's story. Any person, I mean, not just Dan. Although we should do that to Dan.
Yes, we should throw shit at Dan.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's me, Adam. I'm ready for the conversation questions if you are.
How often do you guys focus on weight in your campaign? Let's roll initiative.
Yeah.
16.
11.
18.
Oh, fuck. All right. Okay, Megan. Last with an 11. Fuck. Okay. How often do you focus on weight in campaign?
Not a whole heck of a lot unless it comes up specifically. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, you're the DM. Don't you bring it up?
Not really. Not a lot.
Not until it's a rickety bridge.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it's very situational in my mind. Like, I don't put a lot of thought into the weights of things until something occurs. Like, to your point, if you have a loxodon or like a furbolg and you come up to a rickety bridge, you decide to walk across it, you're like, maybe we'll take weight into account in this moment. You know what I mean? But it's not something I probably would have taken into account when I built the encounter.
Right.
Shall I say. Like, I would not have been like, I'm going to put this rickety bridge here because this cow is going to fall through it. You know, like, that's not something I'll think of. Whereas I know that's something Adam would think of.
Yeah.
But it's not me. I would think of it in the moment. I would not plan for it. It's not something I really think to plan for.
Right.
Yeah.
Terry?
I have a fair use policy for weight. I think it sounds like Megan probably has the same thing, where I'm not going to keep bringing it up all the time. The only time that I deal with encumbrance really is gold. I don't like the idea that players will walk around with 6,000 gold pieces. It ruins the whole point of gold, and so I will weigh that a little bit. I don't let them carry any more than 500 gold pieces each, which even that I think is too much realistically.
That's a backpack.
That's a hefty purse.
It's a lot, right? I'm going to
Have
take
you
that
ever
down.
rolled coins? Like, holy shit.
They're heavy.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to take it down to 200, I think. So that's the only time. I do have more of a focus on weight now, though, in my campaign, because my party needs to be challenged more, because they're very fucky with stuff. And so I'm going to start leaning into those rules that are often overlooked to give them another challenge. I think there's some...
I gave a curse, and I thought this was a curse that you guys would go fix. I knew hags were coming up, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make this character have metal bones.
Oh, yeah.
And it
500-pound dragonborn.
500-pound black dragonborn.
Yeah.
In a pirate campaign. Everything was water or mud, right? And so she was consistently dragging her feet and trying hard not to fly. Because everyone else can swim. Her strength was her dump stat. She was going to sink. And she was going to die. So, like, anytime the ships got rocked, she, like, ran into the center of the ship. Like, that's it. I'm going below decks. I'm not fucking around with this.
Yeah.
Right? And it came up. It came up semi-frequently where she was heavier than everyone else. You guys all got pet wyverns at one point that you were flying across the map, and her wyvern was moving at half speed. Right?
There are times where we used her as an anchor.
Yes.
We tied ourselves to her and said, all right, let's go!
Yeah, through like gusts of wind and shit. So it came up, but it came up for flavor and for specific danger in these scenarios. I wasn't worried about encumbrance so much, or as I was about, you will have to do a specific strength check to be able to lift yourself. The DC will be harder. You will have disadvantage, that kind of shit.
Yeah, you can't climb this rope because your little dragonborn arms can't carry 500 pounds.
Yeah, but that was when the player themselves weighed a lot, right?
Yeah.
And we get a lot of mileage out of the Loxodon and the Furble being heavy as well in our campaign right now.
It's true.
However, carrying stuff, unless it's specifically super heavy. Oh, I'm going to go pick up the cart. No, you're not. I mean, come on, man. No, you're not. Like,
yeah, good luck.
At this point, I feel like my players are using common sense enough to know that they're not going to just automatically do it.
That's a skill check that needs to be in this game. Common sense.
Common sense. Yeah, you make the DM roll that half the fucking time. Too,
Give your head a shake and roll for common sense. That's what I'll say.
Common sense roll?
Yeah.
Megan, do you think 5th edition is better for having gotten rid of encumbrance as a basic rule?
I think yes and no. Again, I feel like a lot of these things I don't think of until the issue arises. So I like that there is sometimes a rule for them so that I have something to fall back on and I have to make shit up. So the fact that it's not there as inherently as it once was in previous editions does make that problematic when it comes up. But I also enjoy the fact that I don't have to think about it all the time. Yeah.
Terry, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't bring encumbrance up too much apart from the gold thing that I just mentioned. Instead, I'll try and lean into other inconveniences. Like if they're carrying so much that now their backpack is so big and they have 2 great axes and a great sword strapped to their back. I'm like, tell me how you're fitting through these doors right now. What are you doing with your lance right now as you're doing this? And so instead of leaning to the encumbrance rule,
it's almost the size of the ship.
I'll make it an inconvenience kind of challenge they have to work around because they tend to get on board with that more.
Yeah. Like how many swords does Dave's character have right now?
Dave is carrying around like 7 great swords and 3 great axes, and, and it's
just
all strapped to his back. He's a Leonin, and he's a barbarian, and he's a big guy with these. But like, he's not able to walk through a town square without everybody stopping and looking at him right now.
It looks ridiculous.
I lean into that as well. Yeah. Exactly. How do you look like? What do you look like when you walk into the town?
I hated encumbrance at 3.5. Fucking hated it. It made it so that you could not dump strength, which means that barbarians can choose which one they want to dump, no problem. They're not getting penalized for it. But a wizard now has to be good at 3 or 4 skills or ability checks instead of just the 2 that the ranger needs or the monk needs. So it was I hated encumbrance. I ran into that a lot. I had 2 characters die because they were too heavy. They were weighed down by shit, and they fell or they sunk into water and could not get free. Yeah. And that's it. Like, you're just too heavy for this. Although it did give us a really cool moment in an Eberron campaign 3.5. Warforged don't have to breathe.
Yeah.
So Dave was playing a 700-pound Warforged and fell off a ship, and he just shrugged at everybody else and said, "I'll meet you at the shore," and started walking at half speed.
Oh,
right.
really?
So everybody else is getting in rowboats and flying, and he's just trudging along.
Yeah.
He used to smoke back then. He went out for a cigarette and came back half an hour later. He's like, all right, am I there yet? Almost. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about a bag of holding?
So when I think about a bag of holding and whether I'm going to give it to my players or not, it's one of those things where I consider what kind of campaign I want to play. Are you playing a survivalist campaign where, tracking what you have and what you don't have is important? Or tracking your rations are important? Or tracking how much you're carrying is important?
Yeah.
Like, it depends on the game I'm playing. If I'm just playing a fun storyline-based game where I just want to get them from storyline place to storyline place and actually tell, like, a really, like, in-depth role-playing story, I'll give them a bag of holding so that we're not focusing too much on materials and we're not spending hours at the table figuring out people's inventories and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
But if inventory is something that's specifically supposed to take place specifically for their survival, then I will consider whether or not I'm going to give them a bag of holding or not, because it takes away that sense of urgency of being able to carry what you can and not carry, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the juice is not worth the squeeze for me. I think it removes too much of the challenge, and often things that players complain about, I think, is due to tools such as bag of holding. I don't think it's wrong to have to limit what you can put in your backpack or decide which sword you can no longer carry. I think these are all fair challenges. I mentioned the gold thing twice already, but Adam, what you do that I like is you have different types of holding items. You had like a tube, a scroll,
or like a pouch,
scroll.
or like
You
a
had
little
pouch
pouch.
of holding,
Yeah.
and then there was like a map scroll.
Yeah. There's a component pouch of holding.
Yeah.
There's pouches. There's scrolls. I liked my cage of holding because then you could put creatures into it and pull them out again.
Yeah, that was good, and it was also the mouth as well. The opening into it, so you couldn't stick a table and chairs in there. But you could put your spear in there. That made sense.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with bags of holding. I tend to only let friendly NPCs carry them until tier 3.
Yeah.
Then the players can have access. At that point, they've all got enough fucking shit they can do anyway, and they have access to spells to give them, Lehman's tiny hut or extra dimensional spaces or pocket dimensions. Like, there's shit out there by then that they're going to find a way around it anyway.
Yeah.
Why are we burning spell slots on this when 5th Ed is a campaign or is a combat heavy gaming system? Let's not waste our shit on that when a bag of holding exists. But until then, get way down, figure it out. Appreciate the bag of holding when it shows up. There's also a Heward's handy haversack as well, which is essentially a bag of holding backpack.
Yeah.
That's overkill from my perspective.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But I really do think about the mouth of the bag as well. Also, I am a big fan of the fuck you bags of holding, like the bag of devouring. Or the Bag Man, which is my new favorite thing in the whole world, and I'm looking forward to whipping that out on an unsuspecting party at some point.
I love that. I love that for me.
Yeah.
Be suspicious of bags of holding.
Yes.
Let me write that down.
Yeah. Do you know about the Bag Man, Terry?
No.
It is a creature that lives inside a bag of holding that comes out and steals your shit and then disappears back into it.
Oh, well, that you're a brave DM if you're putting that out on players. We know some players that would not take that very well.
Oh, no. Players will flip out. I also like the idea that they will occasionally kidnap. Did you guys see, what fucking movie was it? Was it Sinister? Where it wasn't The Conjuring. It was the other one with Patrick Wilson in it.
Conjuring is the one with dreams.
Yeah.
Insidious is.
Insidious. That's what it was.
Insidious. Okay.
Insidious, where like the son got kidnapped by the demon in the alternate dimension, and he had to go in to rescue the son.
Yeah.
That's the
dreams one. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's the bag man for me.
Dreams.
So I really like that, where they're going to steal a bunch of shit, and then they're going to steal a mount, and then a pet, and then a familiar, and you can't summon the familiar anymore because they're in a pocket dimension, and then the halfling goes missing,
and then you got to go into,
and then you have to go in to get them.
What a fun little side quest.
What
a fun little time that would be.
They'll love that.
Yeah, I like that for bags of holding, but again, I'm tier 3 at that point because now I run the whole environment, and it's going to be full of crazy magic items in there. Like you're essentially in the Cave of Wonders, but it's evil, right? So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it too.
I love it.
All right, before we wrap this episode up, let's cut to our last ad break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram or on our subreddit at r/itsAmimic, Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes, and comments. Engagement like that helps us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
Okay, so what is everybody's final thoughts then on what we've discussed today?
Let's roll initiative.
Sure.
Sure.
I use your die.
Aw.
Megan, I'm sorry, I got 13.
9.
Oh, yours is better than mine.
No, 13's higher than
13 is higher than 9.
No, the dice is bit. Sorry, that wasn't. I rolled yours and scored higher.
Okay, I just thought
That's
we were
what I
bad at
meant.
math for a hot minute.
Yeah.
That's not even bad at math. That's just not being able to see.
I feel like we should call it a sweaty minute from
A
now
sweaty
on.
minute?
Just so
Yeah.
people stop
A
saying it.
moist minute.
Just for a moist minute. Just for a sweaty second.
I'm going to say moist minute from now on. Anyways, yeah, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts and inspirations are: there's a lot of directions we can go with weight and encumbrance, and we can argue this to death all day. Ultimately, it's just what is going to be more fun, and this might even not necessarily what's going to be more fun for the group, but what's going to be more fun for the type of campaign that you're playing. Some types of campaigns, you just don't need to worry about it. But if you're going to be in water a lot, if you're going to be climbing up things a lot, then weight is going to come into consideration. If it's Thursday 2:00 and it's not raining and you're going across the rolling fields, it's probably not a problem. So I would say just pick your battles with it.
Yeah. I would also say that, like, it's one of those things where if you're looking at it from the DM's perspective and you're a new DM and you're going into a campaign, one of the biggest daunting things is knowing the rules and feeling like you have to know everything. It is impossible to know everything. I mean, unless you're Dan. But, like...
No, even that, he gets like half of the shit wrong.
Yeah, or just, like, it's the fake it till you make it confidence thing too. Like, if you're playing with new players, sometimes you can just make up your own variant rule and you just play like that for like your 3-shot game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't be shy from playing D&D and being a DM by how many rules there are. Because you will always have to look it up. You will always have to, like, figure shit out on the fly. You're always going to have to deal with that one player that doesn't know what they're doing, so they're going to do something weird. You're like, okay, how do I deal with this? Like, it's always going to happen. Don't let that deter you from wanting to DM. Yeah.
Look, honestly, I said it a few minutes ago, the 5th edition is a combat-heavy system, and Critical Role has made us think that D&D is a role-play-heavy system, which means that's what players focus on.
Yeah.
Our character sheets teach us how to fight shit, and our social media teaches us how to interact with other players and characters and NPCs and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Nothing teaches us how to do exploration.
No.
And it's the, like, we have an episode called Exploration, the Forgotten Pillar. Because even Megan's like, is this the exploration pillar?
That's a pillar?
Is that a thing? Right? At the beginning of this episode. So, yeah.
Just talking and stabbing.
Really comes back to that, right? Full circle. First, yeah.
And I think the problem is that we get this list of skills, and that's it. And the modules say, when this happens, roll this. The DC is this. And we think that's the be-all and end-all, and it clearly fucking is not.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of rules, but they're spread out. They're not all intuitive either. There's some stuff that I really like fall damage, and stuff that I hate, like maximum fall damage.
Yeah.
I like the avalanche, in theory, until I stop to think about it. I want us to worry about encumbrance and weight, but the swimming rules and the holding your breath shit sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Jumping is both a skill check and something everyone can just innately do. It's not necessarily the best laid out pillar, and so DMs, I feel, have got to make up a lot of that shit on the fly. And there are tools out there for you to actually be able to navigate through all of the pillars to different degrees. Like, I still absolutely hate that grapple and shove are our two combat maneuvers, and they both are the same mechanic.
Yeah, it's true.
There's so much more shit we should be able to do. We talked about it in the latest Fighters episode. So the skills are there to be an inspiration and to be a guideline, not to be a hard and fast rule set.
Yeah.
And so I would like people to start thinking about, for even role-playing as well, when we're out in the world, how are we interacting with it? And honestly, I think that looking at other systems teach us how to do that better.
In different ways,
Right.
yeah.
For example, another skill that I would love to see is I think it's a tool proficiency to being able to use land vehicles.
Yeah.
Whereas in Call of Cthulhu, it's just drive is just a skill.
Yeah. I can drive, yeah.
A lot of people say ride is close enough if
Yeah.
you're driving a cart. And you know what? Fuck. Yeah, it's close enough, but it's ride with a strength check.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So,
Fair
sure.
enough. All right, and with that, that is all for our discussion on the variant rules for skills, falling, encumbrance, and weight. Make sure that you subscribe or follow and check back regularly to see what inspirations and insights we'll have for you in the future. Next week, we'll be returning with a kind of gem dragon that really, really don't want to roleplay.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, a store with some It's a Mimic merch, and a Patreon. Also, for those of you at home that don't realize it, anytime that anyone gets to this part of the episode, the other two bust their fucking phones out. And just stop listening until, like, you're done. I know, you're reading along, but it's so fucking funny every time.
We switched off.
Yeah. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits. And don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
Adam, I just thought of a name for this episode.
Yep. No, that's
It's
too late.
now.
Yep.
Should have been. No, it should have been. It could have been.
Okay.
Variant rules. Wait, there's more.
Fair enough.
Doesn't matter. Skilling in the name was pretty damn good. And as I said it out loud, it wasn't that good.
Closer
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna...
to the mic, or now we can bring the mic closer to me.
I'll move, I guess. How's that? Does that sound... How's that going? Is that better if I face the microphone this time?
Do we need to acknowledge the death of Coolio today?
We
Did
don't...
Coolio die?
Coolio died.
Yeah.
Just BBC News just informed me moments before I found out.
Well, I mean, he's gone up to the gangster's paradise then, I guess.
Yay. I don't know any of the Coolio songs, so...
It's that one and 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Those are the only ones that I know off the top of my... Oh, and I guess the Monstars anthem from Space Jam.
Really?
Yeah.
That would
Pretty
make
sure
sense.
He was on that.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't be able to tell you that for sure, though. Pop culture is not my thing.
Oh my god. You're the worst two people for this.
Anyway, let's have a podcast.
Why are you still here? Leave already.